Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to our Wednesday show. We're probably going to be taking callers if anybody wants. I can give the link to my Discord right here. Anybody who's not in it already, join it immediately. Otherwise, you're square. And, or not. If you don't go on that or you don't want to start a Discord, I'll just throw the link in the chat at some point. But yeah, we're probably going to be talking about Article 13, Joshua Boyle, and a few other things. But also, if you guys want to bring up questions or whatnot, just tag my name or one of these other guys' names in the chat, and then we'll be able to see it and address it later. But let me just check out the chat here. Hey, MT Cup. Hey, Jerry. Hey, the one. How's it going, Faye? Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Got 9 people in so far. Maybe I'll wait a little bit. Red dot or feather, AJ? We need to know. Red dot or feather? What do you mean? Like, which one do I prefer? That's tough, man. That's a tough question. You know, I don't know if I could. It depends. You know, if it comes to like I don't know, engineering work and stuff, then maybe the red dot Indians. If it comes to like working with roofing and stuff, then I'll take the feather Indians. You know, it depends.
So it's an occupational hazard.
Pardon?
It's an occupational hazard then.
Right. No, exactly. But I don't know. You guys want to start talking about probably Joshua Boyle, if anybody wants to start off on that. I know Chris apparently had a lot of opinions about it. Are you
Sure.
following it recently?
Yeah, I mean, I've been following this thing since this guy came back to Canada, and just kind of face palming that he's even back in here. Just to give you some background on this guy, his story goes a lot deeper than the media would have you think. In fact, he's quite connected to the story of Omar Khadr, because he originally became interested in human rights issues with the case of Omar Khadr post 9/11, and actually was a spokesperson for the Khadr family for quite a while, and even married Omar's sister in
Right.
2009. And then divorced her. You probably text her, "I divorced you 3 times," in 2010. And then apparently married this American girl who he's had 3 kids with while in captivity. Jeez. Caitlin Coleman from the US. She's an American. Pennsylvania. They actually met online as teenagers and fans of Star Wars. So I don't know if they're still fans of SJW Last Jedi, but hey, they got married. Star Wars brought them together. They traveled
Hey Chris,
for a while.
you're cutting out just a little bit. Maybe you might be a little bit away from your mic potentially, but just cutting out a little bit. We can still hear you, but it's just coming in and out a little bit.
I'll come as close to my mic as I can.
There we go. That's perfect.
Making a mic baby. So anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Actually, we hear you nice and clearly right there. Perfect.
Sure, no problem. So these started traveling around the world. Decided Russia and Central Asia were good places to go. And for what I'm told are unknown reasons, they crossed into Afghanistan. They just said, hey, we're just hit all the stand countries. They're all the safe ones. Go to Afghanistan.
Very conspicuously.
Yeah, nothing happens in Afghanistan. It's nice and peaceful.
Yeah.
They've got poppies there, you know, little heroin. No big deal. So they went to Afghanistan to help the people. You know, maybe they felt white guilt or something. So they went to Afghanistan. And they got kidnapped. Go figure. So long story short.
They didn't get beheaded. Oddly.
Well, apparently. So very interesting about that. So I'm going to say they claim they were kidnapped, because remember, this guy was very much a fan of Omar Khadr, who happened to throw a grenade at an American soldier in Afghanistan. So they know family, they know connections, maybe. Anyways, they claimed they were kidnapped. They definitely were not fighting for the Taliban, definitely weren't fighting for ISIS, definitely weren't sympathizers, definitely not. And I mean, they were so scared while in captivity, they decided to have 3 children in captivity because, hey, you want to bring a life into the world? We're better than, one of the stand countries.
Right.
That's two white people in one of the stand countries during a war. So, and also, if you look at it, when he first came back to Canada, very much wearing the Muslim garb, had the beard cut a certain way, spoke with an accent, all kinds of stuff. So, anyways, and they were captives for 5 years. And so they got found and rescued by a SEAL team. And then
3 kids while they were in captivity too, right?
Exactly. Three kids while they were there. They felt safe enough. They were so scared, they just figured, let's huddle for warmth. And, hey, pop out. We have a kid there. So anyways, they were rescued by some American Navy SEALs. And then, go figure, America didn't want them. So what Canada did, because, hey, our prime minister tweeted, come back home. So they came home, staying with Boyle's parents in Smith Falls. Long story short, as it turns out, Boyle is a massive creep and his wife is insane. So she alternately claims that he's, abused her. I'm not saying it did or didn't happen. Of course, they're the only two people who know. And he claims he didn't, and she's crazy. And so they've been in and out of court ever since. She's trying to leave him. Maybe she's smartening up, maybe not. I don't know. So right now they're in court. He's basically been accused of a lot of physical abuse to his wife.
19 charges.
Exactly. So very, very serious stuff. I'm not surprised.
Hey, wait a sec, guys. That's part and parcel of a Muslim wife. You got to take.
But about the whole crazy thing too, he called a couple days. He was trying, apparently, the whole call, because he's being charged for that too, for lying to the police. Yep. Because what do you call it? Like that whole call to the police saying his wife was crazy was kind of like an alibi that he was creating for himself, so he could be like, no, I never beat her. But like the 19 charges, like 1 count of sexual assault while threatening to use a weapon, ropes. 1 count of sexual assault with a weapon, ropes. Like, I guess he tied her up with ropes, or he beat her with ropes. I don't know. 1 count of uttering a threat to cause death. 9 counts of assault. 1 count of assault with a weapon, a broomstick. 3 counts of unlawful confinement. So locking her in rooms, I guess. 1 count of administering a noxious substance, antidepressant. 1 count of public mischief. Misleading a police officer into believing that someone was suicidal and missing, causing the officer to start an investigation, and thereby diverting suspicion away from Boyle, and 1 count of criminal harassment. So,
and then that antidepressant story I thought was rather interesting. That it's very, very interesting. Again, these folks are crazy enough that maybe it's true, and apparently they're staying in some hotel for whatever reason, and this is in Canada. And she said, well, maybe I threatened to leave him. I don't really remember what started the argument. But anyways, he decided that she was going to leave him. So he decides, okay, I'm ordering you strip naked and go in the shower. And that way, if you're naked, I know you're not going to leave. That's logic. So she does. She complies. And then he runs to get his antidepressants because, of course, he's on antidepressants. And decides to gives her 3 of them and says, hey, take them. So she doesn't take them. She throws them in the toilet and then proceeds to tell him that I didn't take them. I threw them in the toilet. So he's pissed, goes back, gets more, and basically watches her take them. And he said, well, if I didn't, I was afraid he's going to strike me, because she claims that he struck him several times. These two, in a way, are both terrible people, but I think they're also kind of made for each other. I think they shouldn't be together, but they should be forever in their own personal self-made hell, not in Canada. Just my thought.
Well, it's like what really gets me is like, how did they survive being captured by ISIS, and why did ISIS just let them go, right? Like, they behead people all the fucking time, but these people are okay, I guess. Not a big deal. And they're Trudeau's good buddies. Or he took pictures with them. I guess it's not they're good buddies, but you know what I mean. You got anything to say about this, Fredrick? You got any opinions?
I'm at a loss for words of just how our justice system works. We've talked about this before with that Chinese national who had immigrated here in the late 2000s and lobbed off the head of that poor kid in Alberta. And just, everybody seems to be, it just doesn't seem to be the right kind of justice. And we're rewarding perversion, criminal activity. What can I say?
Omar Kadar just had his thing released by the judge or something. Now he can do whatever he wants, right? So now all his restrictions are pretty much removed. And that's the justice we get in Canada.
Right. And meanwhile, we are treating our own professional hitmen paid by the state, trained by the state. When they get back injured or traumatized, we throw them out in the sewers, right? It's this is what Canada's become, right? It's nothing new. And I think there was a lot of other cases too out. Chris, remind me correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a few cases out in the east near BC area, some of the prairie places where even the Sikhs and Muslim Indian were. I think there was a Sikh who had buried his daughter up to the neck because she had done some wrong. She had disgraced the family. It was, I think 10 years back. There was no justice for that type of behavior.
No, yeah, and look, Fred. There's a number of instances where people have essentially punished or treated people the way they would have in the old country, and have basically gotten a massive pass. On Reddit, there's a group. There's a group for everything, of course, but there's one in particular called Pussy Pass, where it's like, if this was a man, they would have gotten the book thrown at them, but they're a woman, so they didn't. And sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. I think that Cardi B thing that's happened recently would be one of those things that would fall into that category where she claimed.
Yeah, I just did a video on that, actually.
Yeah, I was just watching it before we came online here. It's like, if a guy, white or otherwise, had said, "Oh yeah, I did all this stuff," the book would be thrown at them. They'd be in jail. Me Too would be pounding at their door. And meanwhile, it's just like breezy. Yeah, I drugged guys and stole their money back in the day. But they're dudes, so whatever.
Yeah, she's like, I drugged them and stole their money. Yeah, like it would be just insane if it was the other way around. Like there would be mobs in front of their house with like torches, being like, "Come out, we need blood." But oh well, we're just gonna ignore this. But like I was saying in my video, like these people are on the left and they say what the establishment wants, so they can get away with pretty much whatever they want. What is that guy, Edward Burke? Two black guys have already died in his place by dying from like an overdose of being injected with drugs. And like this.
Oh yeah, he was like gay prostitutes. Yeah,
right. And that would be a huge scandal if there was people on the other foot. But that's the thing. That's why I wasn't even surprised, and I'm not surprised if nothing bad happens to her or whatever. And I don't want anything bad to happen to her. I don't want her career ruined or destroyed. I don't want necessarily like a mob to go after her, but it just shows the double standard of how irate, how angry people get when they see, like, I just keep thinking of the Covington Catholic schoolboys, and like that, just how like enraged people got about that and angry. And you just think about it. You're like, wait, all he did was stare at the guy. But this, it's like, whatever, it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But whatever.
Yeah, I think it's rampant. I mean, look at Jussie Smollett. The guy got off. He was under several federal charges, and he just walks away, and he gets his record cleaned. That's even more bizarre.
Actually, the federal stuff is not dismissed yet. The FBI is looking into that letter.
The letter,
he mailed himself, apparently. But the local stuff in nice, just, and super corrupt Chicago. I mean, they have like own system in Chicago for a lot of this stuff. They're the ones who dismissed it, and that looks super shady as well. The way that went down, the connection to to Michelle Obama apparently, and the Obamas for some of that.
Yeah, more shady stuff is coming out about that too.
But that's Chicago politics. That's very much I call you, you do this, and they said he did what did he do? Community service for 2 days at Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition, which is probably signing autographs and taking selfies with people, and paid $10,000, which is essentially, his bond for his bail. And they said, okay, we're going to keep that. So $10,000 in 2 days, and that justifies you basically upsetting a nation twice. One, with the allegation to begin with, which was horrible if it happened in the first place, and two, the fact that it was fake, and it pissed off everybody. So, anyways, there you go.
Yeah, it's just the court of public opinion that I think is really like, I'm almost not surprised. I am kind of surprised he got no charges, but like I just see it's just the double standard that really gets me, because it's like this is like a racist thing he pulled. It was like super racist. If a MAGA supporter was like, 2 black thugs attacked me, and he had the same notoriety as Jesse Smollett, like he was a big actor or something, and was trying to smear a group of people, and he was proven to be lying. Like the court of public opinion would not let this guy rest, and it's just like crickets when it comes to these people. So kind of, to me, it just shows you what we're really against, in a sense, like how brainwashed people really are to have like that blatant double standard, to not care at all about something like this. And they're still going to go on with the whole white privilege narrative, yada, yada, yada. When it's, it just comes down to money and connections. If you know people in high places, if you have a lot of money, and it really comes down to knowing people, because he doesn't have that much money, right? It's because he knew Michelle Obama and the higher ups in Chicago politics, etc. So, it's just no justice, but people will probably lose some trust in the justice system, if they had any in it already. But, yeah, it's a fucked situation, but I think it's almost good. It's like, it's better to have this happen and him not suffer any penalty, to have this to point out to people, to be like, look, this guy blatantly got off with lying. Sarah Jeong was a blatant racist, but still got hired at New York Times. It's more example after example that should be like red pilling people more and more and more each and every day. But go ahead, Fred or Chris, if you want to butt in there.
Well, it's there's nothing surprising about it. We know now that Trump, the Trumpinator, has been cleared of any investigation in terms of the Russia collusion, and they're doubling down. They are adamant to keep talking about this topic, and actually it's doing them a disservice. But what's funny is that they still seem to be gathering ground. They're both the Democrats, liberals. It doesn't stop. I mean, even now, to old white guy's point, right? He's dead on. And I agreed with him on this early on, that nothing is going to happen to Trudeau with this SNC Lavalin. It'll be brushed aside like all of the other corruption charges across the country, right? From the West Coast to the East Coast.
Yeah. So just to go back to that Trump thing. So what they need to do in the US is release a stupid report. Just get it out, so that there's no more shadows or anything. Get the report out, release the whole thing, so people can go.
Well, yeah, that's the new narrative now, right?
Because the guy who is the Attorney General has been on record and said in the past he thought this whole thing was a witch hunt. This is before he became Attorney General, and thought it was ridiculous, which it is. So people are like, well, and so the letter that summarized the report, didn't release the report, but summarized it, came from this Attorney General. So people are like, well, you never were a fan to begin with, so release the whole report. So now the report right now is being reviewed by the Ministry of Justice, the Department of Justice in the United States. And what they're supposed to be doing is going through it to make sure there's no confidential information, because this report gives names, dates, all kinds of things. Some of it may be confidential, whatnot. Congress has said they want the report released. I think the vote was 420-0. So on a rare completely unanimous bipartisan vote from the U.S. Congress, Democrats and Republicans. So everybody wants this report to be released so it can be over. This can be over with completely, and so people can shut up and move on with their lives. So I think the sooner that happens, the better. Part of the problem as well is that it's not so. What Mueller said, if you read between the lines of what the AG said in his letter, it wasn't like he said Trump is, being clear of everything. It kind of seemed a bit, if you read between the lines, and I don't have the letter in front of me to quote from it, but it sounded like it was almost a bit of a hedge there. That's given the Democrats kind of a little bit of a ledge to kind of grasp onto to say, there's still the Southern District of New York that's investigating him still and investigating his businesses and investigating. So do I think it's going to end? No. I mean, I think the media's had a big amount of egg on its face. It's really going to take, even if Trump's reelected bigly, I don't see it stopping. I think this is just kind of operandi. They're very syndrome.
They never intended to find anything about Russia, right? It was just they assumed he's dirty, right? And they assumed they're gonna find something else on him. So they're like, oh, just keep it going until we find some shady deal or something, to like, that whole thing with Watergate and Bill Clinton, that took like 8 years for it to finally come out. So a lot of people are looking at it like that. They're like, oh, don't worry. Just let it keep going. Let the investigation go. Just got to keep going because they just want to find something to, smear him with or whatever. But,
it's revenge for Hillary Clinton and the Benghazi, the 8 times they dragged her in front of a thing for about Benghazi over years and years. I think looking for some revenge on that too. But they didn't really get anything on her, and they didn't get anything on Trump. I think these investigations by both sides are just there to rile up the public and kind of rally the base against certain people.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's ridiculous. They're just trying to, at first, they're trying to delegitimize Trump's election and be like, and this is just another excuse to censor the internet in all countries. It's crazy how Trump got elected because of Russia, and now in Canada, in Europe, and all these other countries, we're all worried about Russia interfering in our elections. We're like freaking out about it, and we're implementing all these new bills and restricting the internet access for people because Trump got elected into the internet, or I mean, to the presidency. It's like, what the fuck?
The craziest thing is that the U.S. government, and I would say the U.K. and all of our Five Eyes friends, with a minimum of us in New Zealand probably, have done more to interfere in foreign elections than anybody else in the world, especially the U.S. Look at the quagmire that is South America. Look at what Britain did to the Middle East and the way they divided things. Basically, might as well have drawn up that map with a dartboard. In terms of splitting the way they split things up in terms of tradition down there, and Africa's map as well. So they have interfered for centuries in the goings on of countries around the world. And so this happens like once or twice, and their guy does or doesn't get in, and all of a sudden they're using it as an excuse to take and seize control over communication mediums like you described, AJ. Taking control of the internet, doing things in the name of copyright and eliminating hate speech, whatever that means. They're off, passing these ridiculous bills like they have in the UK for various things online, like they have in Australia, and now we also get over to these new EU laws with Article 12 and Article 11 and 13.
Well, yeah. Now Facebook is also banning anybody who talks about white nationalism or something. So now Facebook is going to ban all praise, support, and representation of white nationalism and separatism on Facebook and Instagram because the New Zealand, mosque shooting, essentially. So just another event that they can use weeks down and years down the road for censoring people or whatnot. And this is going like separatism. So what, they can't talk about separating or something at all? Like, it's ridiculous. And they're going to base this really subjectively also. And what is going to be considered white nationalism, like a MAGA hat, like that is considered a white nationalism nowadays if you're supporting Trump or whatever. So, eventually, yeah, they're just going to start banning people from there. But speaking of new platforms, though, have you guys heard of IDW? That new one by, I think it's like Jordan Peterson or something.
Yeah, I see that old white. Sorry, not old white guy. Who was just someone just posted up a new video. Grant Sterick. Yeah, I just noticed that today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see if it works.
Hey, do that. I've been on it for a little bit. It seems okay. I just posted a link in the chat, and also I wanted to address super chat from Rainy Steps. Hello, AJ and friends. He says so. Hey, Rainy, how's it going? Thank you for joining us, and thank you everybody for joining us so far. If you guys have any questions or whatnot, like I said before, put at AJ Licits in the chat if you want to bring up a different topic, or if you want to jump in the discussion. We're also taking calls or whatnot, so I'll put the link again in the chat as well, and also my Discord link. But go ahead, guys, if you wanted to interject there with something.
Yeah, so the Articles 11 and 13 were in play for about a year and a half, and even before then it was being bandied around in the EU. This was during Jean-Claude Juncker's time, where they actually they were talking about throwing that alcoholic, probably pedo, it wouldn't be too far from the truth on that guess, but there was a huge petition and a backlash for Articles 1113. I know one of the big YouTubers, Midaker, who talked about it and made fun of Europeans for that reason alone. He says, look at us, Americans, we're protected by free speech, even though now the walls seem to be closing in on everyone. But the companies like Facebook,
free speech, I don't think would protect from something like Article 13. You know what I mean?
No. What I'm saying is that in the States they have freedom of speech, right? It's enshrined in their Bill of Rights. In Europe, like our charter, it's not. So they still tout that, hey, we still have freedom of speech. We can still use those articles, because they try, like, for example, I know openly I will torrent, and I know that I've received those emails from, let's say, HBO and others. There isn't much they can really do. And it's in the same case here. What that really impacts is the information being disseminated in Europe and vice versa. So you'll see probably a drop in memes again. This is something that's been in play for a really long time. The only thing that I'm concerned about is how are they going to manage that? Because on a grand scale, it's impossible to manage. You will have to data warehouse this for a long time, and hence the meetings with Facebook and Google executives time and time again in Europe with Merkel and other politicians, specifically in UK. So this has been in the works. What really is going on behind the scenes is that they're building large data centers to warehouse all this information, because they will have to, like, for example, let's say someone posts a picture, so they'll have to have where this came from, who owns the original picture, who posted it. So they'll have to have a lot of data on you.
To bail out of the EU, essentially. That's what it's going to cause. This is what happened in Spain in 2014. They did the same thing, and they left Spain, right? They're going to leave the EU if they can't. It's impossible to track everything the EU wants them to track, right? It's like it's impossible. So,
well,
it's not,
just for an example, we had, so the article that I did my video on came from PC Mag, but there was The Verge, there was a whole ton of news sources that were publishing this article. So where does that article originate? Does it come from Reuters? And if it doesn't, then you got to narrow it down. So how far down the buck are you going to pass this, or how far are you going to kick this can till you figure out where the source is? It's insanity. I mean, it's laughable right now, because as I said, you can literally take photos of yourself meme yourself and claim that as a copyright, or you can even record your voice, the pitch and tone, or even coin new words. I mean, you can have fun with this law, but I don't know how it's going to work out. It sounds very limiting. It's definitely going to have an impact. What kind of impact, I don't know yet, because again, I don't think they have all the kinks out. They're probably still building out their data centers out in Europe to track all this shit. But we've also seen that people have been arrested for like stupid tweets, like that lady who was arrested, the single mother who was arrested because she made fun of a trans.
Though, right? Like,
no, it doesn't. But at the same time, this is where it's heading. So
well, this is for corporations specifically. Like this specific
but they're
thing
gonna pass the buck.
Because it's for companies like CNN, the legacy media, all this shit. They want to get paid every time their shit is whatnot, and like musicians and whatnot. They want to get paid every time YouTube uses their shit, or these social media companies, right? They want to get money for it. So that's
a part of it. The other part of it is limiting what you can say. So if you take the ability away for someone to discuss a certain topic based on an article that's been released, so it's twofold, right? One, they want money for that. Two, you're limiting the person from being able to discuss it. Because no one's why would you make money on a meme?
The thing is, it's such a broad legislation type thing that it's not going to be. It's not just going to get like right wingers or something, right? Like it's like the company is supposed to track like every upload essentially, and to make sure it's not copyright. And if it is copyright, they'll be held responsible. If it's not removed within like an hour or a day, then they have to pay like a $50 million fine or something. It's like ridiculous. So like they're just gonna pull out. Like it's not. They did this in Spain. Spain tried doing this. A couple other countries tried doing this, and they pulled out. And maybe the EU thinks that there's such a huge market that Google and these companies probably won't want to pull out because it's such a massive market to pull out. But you know, I don't know. We'll see. You know, I don't see how they could comply. You know, they even changed a lot of the. You know, it went through the bill went through a bunch of different orders or whatever, and it still got reworked a bunch of times, and it's still just as bad essentially, right? So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what is going to happen within the next couple of months with people in the EU and shit. It'll be an interesting experiment. I feel bad for anybody who lives there, but ultimately I think it's like, it's not going to play out, and maybe they're going to have to backtrack, and this may be good. This may be good for EU and whatnot, because they'll pull out. This will and if people don't have internet access or access to Google, then they'll riot. That's the only time people are probably going to riot nowadays, is when we lose internet or something like that. Then you'll see people on the street. I can't use my phone. What? Like you'll see them breaking fucking windows, and it'll be like the yellow vest times 100 or something. But yeah, like
absolutely, and
this might be good.
Well, it might be, and it may not be. I consider this more of a pilot project, right?
If Google left, that would be great, because the EU would separate at that point, and they would speed up their separation. Because
I don't think Google's gonna leave. This is a misnomer. Google's not gonna leave.
Well, look what they want them to comply with. See if it's even physically possible.
Yeah, exactly. To Chris's, they're gonna figure it out. They've already met with these leaders, and they've discussed the fact that the Google Corporation collects monumental data. They've collected. People don't know this shit. They collect calls.
It's not about collecting data. It's about collecting every upload that is being uploaded and making sure they're not breaking violations of copyright within a certain time frame, which is next to impossible for them to do, even with their capabilities of Google and all their money and stuff. Like, it's just we like that would be incredible technology to be able to do that. Like to eat that they would have to spend a lot of money or do like I'm not sure
have a lot of money. They'll figure it out, man. They'll figure it out. They're already figuring it out.
Why did they pull out in Spain in 2014 if they could have just figured it out?
In the world of technology, that's a lifetime away. 5 years is a lifetime away. Remember, Google's trying to get into China. And they're trying to do it by developing this kind of technology. You think the Chinese government's going to let people to search?
Well, not necessarily this type of technology. It's not going to be as ridiculous as the copyright, because the Chinese people, they're not interested in protecting the copyright of that. They're interested in stomping down propaganda or promoting propaganda and stopping down anybody who talks about like nationalism or Chinese, so they'll find keywords so they can find people, but that's not at all the same as looking at every single upload that's being uploaded in Europe, hundreds of millions.
It's actually exactly the same, because the technology, think about it this way.
No, it isn't.
Let's say we're talking about The Simpsons as an example, and that's a copyrighted work. It's the episode where Homer's working from home because he's too fat. He's got that bird that's pushing the keyboard all the time. And zap, okay, Chris is in, Tajikistan. That's not in Europe. It's a bad example. Albania. And uploads this episode. And they're going to look at both. They have technology that can look at the visual signature of the image in terms of, okay, this is this episode, but also the sound of the image. These words in certain sequence for this amount of time to find that. So if they can find the sound in the images for those kinds of things, that's their using copyrighted material, known works, to practice, to get their tools ready to watch the rest of us. So yeah, they will figure it out. And even these penalties that Google's paying is a drop in the bucket for them. It's a drop in the bucket. They'll get that back through tax breaks and all kinds of stuff down the road. They're just passing the same money back and forth.
It wouldn't be a drop in the bucket if they were making if there was as many infringements occurring every day. Like if there's like hundreds a day, that would be hundreds of millions of dollars. And that would rack up for Google. Google has a lot of money. They have like trillions of dollars.
So what the governments are going to do is make a deal with Google and say, hey, you know what? We can give you a break on some of this. We're going to publicly slap your hand. Behind the scenes, we'll give you your money back and tax breaks and whatnot. But here's what we need you to do. We need you to, take this copyright system that you're already working on and combine it with the stuff you're doing for China, and maybe work with this other Chinese company that's kind of got a little bit of this, but doesn't have the servers and data centers and manpower and storage of you, and combine it so we can keep an eye on our people. And there's a lot of governments. The other thing that they're using to refine this is governments that do not share our theoretical feelings about freedom of speech. Governments are very interested in monitoring their people and knowing what's going on because they want to stay in power. They don't want people to come up from under them. So you think that, the Philippines with a guy like Duarte, some of these Middle East countries, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, and these kinds of countries out there, China, of course, these countries are being used as a test bed for this kind of technology to monitor their people, not for copyright, to your point, but to actually monitor their communications because they don't want an uprising and they realize the power of the internet and they want to shut it down. And once they refine it overseas, they're going to bring it here.
Obviously, all these people care about is green at the end of the day, right? They don't care. They're going to sell shit to the Chinese that, will, tamp down their people as long as the Chinese government is going to give them a lot of money. But the whole thing comes down to feasibility and whether it's feasible. And honestly, at the end of the day, time will tell. Maybe you're right or something, but we'll just have to kind of wait to see if that is the case. Because I don't know. I'm just looking at the bill type thing, and I'm like, it's gonna be really fucking hard to do. But nonetheless, maybe they could figure out a way to do it. But we'll see. That might be good, is what I'm saying. Like if the internet is heavily restricted in Europe, that might be a good thing, because maybe then they'll start to fucking wake the fuck up finally. And that's what you'll get for sitting on your hands and whatever, waiting for your country to roll over into the gutter, right? So, you know, well, right?
By the time that happens, it may be too late for them because they're already and they're going to be completely under the thumb, unable to communicate with each other in modern terms because it's all going to be monitored. Like they may have already, by the time it gets to that point, they may have already lost.
Yeah, well, guys, think about this. Okay, so what was the last Olympics in the UK? And then they had that bomb scare before the Olympics started in London, and then they put cameras everywhere. It was a pilot project. They said, "Oh, we're just putting these in, you know, testing out the features, but they will go away."
Like income
and yeah, basically. And so now London is like a complete camera state or a city. They have cameras on every corner. It's worse than Chicago. And they have face monitoring just like in China. So, yeah, well, you might think, oh, this would bankrupt a country, a nation. I mean, China's doing it already now. And they're data warehousing millions and millions of data. All kinds of data from facial features, countenance, to body posture, body movement, people's video game accounts, everything. So it's not out of the ordinary.
They may not have the data to analyze it in real time, but they'll have the tools to capture it. They absolutely have the tools to capture it.
Well, yeah, with data, data is more valuable than gold. It's so fucking valuable. All companies want data, and because it helps a company know it. Do people in this area buy a lot of cheese? Okay, well, I'll sell fucking cheese to all companies, everybody. That's why Facebook is selling it to everybody. And it's not always super nefarious reasons. Sometimes it's just like they want to know.
What are you talking about? Google works. It's well known that they work with the Five Eyes.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
no, who said they weren't?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying it's not always nefarious. I believe it is. That's why how Google got started.
What I'm saying is data collection in of itself is not always a nefarious act. What I'm saying is collecting data, it can be used for many different reasons. And it's not always like what a lot of the times they're like, okay, this person likes to watch Netflix and these movies and this. So it's really a lot of it just has to do with money and corporations learning. They want to know what to sell to you and how to sell shit better to you. And they don't want to waste money advertising shit that people don't want to people who don't want it, right? So the more data you have on people the better. But obviously governments are going to use that nefariously too. And if they're like, oh, this person, where they live and all that type of data. But, I just mean like, a lot of the data that sometimes companies are selling, it's not always like, it just has to do with money a lot of the times. But yeah, sorry, go ahead. But what were you saying about nefarious purposes for Google? I can believe that.
Well, the company had military contracts early on. So whatever they do, they still do, right? So it's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it nefarious. It's what they're been hired to do. And business, there's no wrong or right in business. Business is business, right? So they'll figure it out in Europe. The thing is that fine, let them try. Just work the rules to your advantage. Copyright everything. And we'll see where that goes from here. But I believe this is a pilot project. I don't think they're going to stop and say, oh, we're going to pull this back, because everything they've done in Europe thus far to limit what people can say, what is seen by the general public, has been in play for at least 10 years, right?
The thing is like, if public opinion turns against you, then even though they kind of are, it'll be even more against them, because something like this was implemented in Spain to help, musicians and whatnot, but they ended up losing more money at the end of the day, right? Because nobody would, because if they put a link to their thing or whatever, they would have to pay them money, some stupid shit like that. And what people don't realize, what these idiots don't realize, is like the freeness of the internet is what is going to make you money. And these musicians and whatnot that get kind of duped into thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get paid for every time my music is on YouTube, and you know, these smaller type creators, when it's not really for them, you know, at the end of the day anyways. But it's
well, in the early 90s, when they shut down Napster, all of these people, Metallica and all of these other bands were complaining, oh, Napster's, you know, we're not making off any money on Napster, blah, 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 blah. So they shut down a very popular service. They didn't necessarily go broke.
No.
Well, and what I was saying too is like let's just say people think like a lot of these people on YouTube who have made their careers, their music careers on YouTube, they're kind of like, oh, I should be paid for this and whatnot. But it's like, you wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for the freeness of this site and people being able to share it and whatnot. Like, I understand people want to be paid, but the thing about the internet, what has changed things is now, instead of having to go to a bunch of Jews in Hollywood to be like, hey, let me be an actress, or let me be a singer or something, you know, now you can do it on YouTube or Google, whereas now there's not as much money going towards a few people. It's kind of like less money going around to a lot of different people, because now there's a lot more niche type things. But you could be like a musician, a creator, and only have like 20, 30,000 avid fans, like maybe 10,000, and you could have a career and live your life fairly comfortably. You know, you're not going to be super rich like these other people back in the day, but it's kind of distributed a little bit in a sense of the wealth around the internet. And people, when they lose that and they think like, oh, I'm going to be paid now, it's like, no. Now it's just going to go back to the way it was, where there's people that are not going to let you in to be a celebrity or have a voice or anything like that to begin with, because you know, you wanted to get paid for, you know, the copyright infringement. You know, there's a whole debate to be had about copyright as well, or, you know, whether it's too stringent. And, you know, even, you know, I was thinking about what are those laws, patent laws and stuff, whereas I understand the importance of them, but you can make arguments to the point of they could reduce like progression in society. You know, if somebody's holding on to a patent to like clean water, like, you know, from salt water, like really efficiently
after a while. Absolutely. Yep.
And, you know, and somebody's like sitting on this, that could be bad. Like, you know, I understand people, you know, they want to make money from their invention and stuff. So would I, but you know, when did these come about? The patent laws, right? What happened with inventions in the past type thing? You know, somebody like invented something and then just people started using it. And like, you know, like whoever did invent it would get credit and people would be like upheld as like a great person or something, but it wouldn't necessarily be kind of, I think, the same way. But I don't know the history of patent laws exactly either. But, you know, that's something I'm thinking about. I don't know whether you should get rid of them or keep them or not. It's just something kind of debating on. I don't know if you guys have an opinion on it.
Yeah, so regarding patent laws, actually, I was just watching something a few days ago that talked a bit about patent laws with pharmaceuticals. And if you know the story of insulin and who developed it, it was developed in Canada, developed at the University of Toronto. I want to say Fredrick Banting, but I'm probably wrong about who the actual inventor was, or discoverer was, excuse me. And so they discovered it at U of T and decided, you know what, we're going to make it. We're gonna make it available and free to everyone because it's so important to the world. We want to just make it free. So anybody who's listening to this and is diabetic and is saying, why am I paying for insulin then? And our American friends are really getting screwed by that. Now, part of the problem though is fine. They're university guys. They're not distributors. They're not running a business. They needed help to get it out. And if companies weren't going to invest in that process until, you know, they had some protections that not anybody else could. So they licensed it out to two large pharmaceutical companies. I know Eli Lilly was one of them. I can't remember the other one right now. But anyways, they licensed them out. This was at least 80 or 90 years ago. And the patent laws, at least in the US, are such that these companies, I guess essentially when the patent is basically up, all they have to do is tweak it a little bit in order to extend the patent. And so they can't necessarily tweak insulin, but they can tweak the way the insulin is developed or extracted or something involved with the process, some refinement. So that's what they do. So they've continued to do that time and time again for almost 100 years with insulin. So which means that even though the insulin is made available to the world for free, people still have to pay an arm and a leg. An arm and a leg. Diabetics. They have to pay a lot to get their insulin in some cases. Now, in places like Canada, it's not as bad as in the US, where they have the free market, quote unquote, really the medical cartel. Their version of Rogers and Bell, instead of paying an arm and a leg, you pay with an arm and a leg, and you get and so they're paying about 10 times what we are for insulin right now. Diabetics, and I mean, as we know in the West, diabetes is a big deal. It's becoming a bigger deal here in Canada. It's a huge deal in the United States. These are life-saving drugs, so people are rationing their medication. They're doing all kinds of stuff, and that's expensive with insurance. There's still a copay that people have to pay themselves, amongst all kinds of other things. So that is a situation where I'd say, you know what? After a certain point, insulin is insulin. Just, reduce the price so that most people can have it. But these companies want to stretch it out as long as possible. Same thing. I mean, I remember a few years ago there was a thing about books and in terms of how long can a copyright be extended for books. And of course, we have some classic works that are out of copyright or in the public domain, but you had companies who wanted to change those laws so that they could continue to sell certain works as opposed to just making them available to a certain point. And so, I mean, these guys, they're corporations. They're going to do what they need to do to make a buck. Fair enough. That's what they do. A snake's going to bite you or crush you. That's what they do. So, you need to kind of have a bit of a balance there to say, okay, at what point is this in the name of the public good that this needs to be made available to more people versus you continuing to profit obscenely?
Well, right. And it's like, I don't like businesses that are created kind of off of a law, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, you see all these, it's like, this is a private business or whatever. Yeah, okay. Yes, it is. But I mean, it's like if there's some law that's created and then they just keep kind of tweaking it to keep making money. And if that law kind of wasn't there, they wouldn't really have a business and be making a lot of money as they are now. And, people will look at that and they'll be like, see, capitalism, bad. Capitalism is bad for this, and that. But it's like, well, is it the laws that are creating the protections or allowing these people to constantly, fiddle with the formula or whatever, charge people an arm and a leg for it? Like, what were you saying they were doing exactly with the formula? They were changing it slightly.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be the insulin itself, but it could be the way the insulin is, or the drug, because it's not just insulin; it's all kinds of pharmaceuticals in the United States in particular. So just to tweak to the way that they derive it, the way they extract it, the way they process it. And I mean, there's some legitimacy to some of that in terms of making processes more efficient, saving money in the process. That's all fair and that's all good. But
right.
They don't pass those savings on to the public. And because without going into too deep down the rabbit hole of how the American healthcare system works, there's a lot of layers there in terms of people taking a dollar out of people's pockets. It's not just the pharmaceutical companies. There's middlemen. There's the insurance companies themselves. There's middlemen between the insurance companies, and you have the hospitals selling prices. The government isn't exactly helping. So it all adds up to things being very expensive for people who need help and don't really care about patents.
Right. And it's just, it's tough to, like, what do we do to get medical care or cheap medicine to people? Right. And I think that one of the things to do as well is to open up markets and trade with other countries and stuff like that. Right. Like, sure. When it comes to drugs, especially, then you pretty much want, free trade with a bunch of different countries and shit. You know, the cheaper the drugs you can get, the better. And the more competition in that market, the better. That's why I really think it should be on the private sector, because...
So will you be the first one in line to accept if someone in your family gets sick because these companies are going to cut corners to make a profit?
See, this is the thing. A lot of people, they're kept into this socialism healthcare because they think, well, you know, when I lose my healthcare, nobody's going to help me. Well, yeah, the government kind of fucked us and put us in this situation where now they've made us rely on their government healthcare. So then when they do go kaput, which they will go kaput, and we won't have any healthcare. One woman I just saw died in the waiting room. She waited for 11 hours and she just died, right? Because nobody came and helped her. Another person, another guy in Winnipeg here died. He was waiting for 24 hours in the waiting room. You know, he was already in rigor mortis, all this shit. So, you know, yeah, great fucking healthcare, but it's better than nothing. Obviously, it's better than Venezuela and other shit, but is it sustainable? Can we pay for it? Is it going to be around in 20, 30, 40 years? Probably not. So we should be trying to at least incorporate aspects of the free market in it right now. So that means opening up hospitals added on to the socialist healthcare system we have at the moment. So you open up some private healthcare areas, right? And then that can take off a lot of the burden.
It's so I believe in a blended approach. You should have.
That's what's destroying our economy, man. That's
what's destroying our economy is that we don't rely on any industry whatsoever. We rely on foreigners to keep the clock ticking. That's it. We've destroyed our manufacturing base. We used to have one. Every country that manufactures something does very well, and we do none of it anymore. Any country that is only solely based on a resource-rich country does poorly, and we are up for sale for virtually everything, right? So I believe in a blended approach. I believe there should be private clinics. And I only believe there should be private clinics because the public ones suck. But why do they suck? Why doesn't it suck in places like Taiwan? They have I think it's the top 5 public healthcare systems. It's run efficiently. You miss your appointment. Oh, well, back in the line, you will not get another appointment for another 2 months. You have to make your appointment. It has to be on time. You have to take your medication. Everything they follow up. They have a very good electronic system. We've tried to implement. What was that Chris called? Electronic healthcare system that we tried to implement, and it was a complete failure.
Oh, remember? No, they're still trying. You're thinking of e-health.
Yeah. E-health.
Think about this. They're still trying. They're still wasting our money for that.
So whatever the government does here is a fucking failure. One, we let too many people in, so there are people who have a little bit of a cough and they go waiting in. You know, you could be they're waiting in the waiting room. The doctors are all also subject and to corruption and suspect as well, because they make you wait in the waiting room for an hour, then they take you into their room and they make you wait there for another hour. Why aren't they looking at you right away, or are they billing you from that moment? So the whole system is broken because we got too many people pulling out from the system. So what we need to fix it right away, I agree, allow private clinics, right, to alleviate it. But then what happens is now, how do people access those private clinics? Because nobody has any money. We've destroyed the economy. So we're in a catch-22.
Oh, well,
that's
no,
why
people will still access
right now instead of waiting and you know, do it now. Like, fuck it. Yes, I'll fucking volunteer to not have health care. Okay, but like this whole fucking balanced approach, it's the mixed economy that is fucking us, man. That is what is fucking us. And okay, the reason I want a privatized healthcare system is because, okay, why is a TV so cheap nowadays? Why is this? Why is everything on the free market so much better, more efficient, run better? Because it's not run by the government. That's why. We would have cheaper. Okay, first of all, Taiwan as well. All other countries pretty much are getting a lot of their technology, a lot of the technology that they're using for their medicine comes from America, which had not even necessarily a free market system, but they had more free market than other countries. And a lot of our advances come from America. A woman I just saw today, she's going to America with her child who has cancer to go get help because there's nowhere in Canada to do it, right? How many Canadians go to America every single year? 60,000 people. Now, the problem is we're stuck in this mind frame of, oh, you're heartless. You don't want to help people. You don't want to. No. A free private system would be cheaper for everybody. It would be higher quality care. It would be. You know what my examples are? Everything else on the free market is cheaper, better, more efficient.
That's bullshit. Okay, I'll tell you what the free market does sometimes. So hold on a sec. So look to Julie's point. So Julie just
you're wrong.
No, you can't say I'm wrong.
I gave you an example just now.
What does the government do better? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I gave you an example, guys, earlier, what kicked off this conversation, of the private sector, multiple companies with patents. You think there'd be competition, but there's actually collusion and cartel, much like Rogers, Bell, and Telus and your cell phone plan.
Don't forget about the goddamn Phoebus. There's so many of them. The Phoebus, the whiskey, what's it called?
And 60,000 people going to the U.S. out of 35 million. I'm not going to do the math on that, but that's a very...
Yeah, you're going to get, like they do in Hong Kong, they get baby powder mixed in with fucking rat poison.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to bring up Julie's point, right? Julie makes a point, and I like that because I believe in a blended system. Give people the option. You should have the option to opt out of your healthcare taxes. So you say, hey, I'll sign a document here. I opt out of the healthcare
system.
So what are you calling for? A complete...
That's a voluntaristic system, which I would be 100% for. If I could opt out of paying for things like that, of course I would do it.
Until you need the coverage. Like, this is what insurance does. The people,
that's right.
You pay for the coverage until you need it, and you can't predict when you're going to need it. So that's kind of how insurance works. Right. So if you're not going to pay until you need it, then you're going to pay more, and you're going to pay that. If you can handle those kinds of catastrophic costs when they come up, then God bless you.
And the people who can't may die, and
Well, yeah, but that's one of the hallmarks of a Western society, and every Western country is that there is some kind of public system that ensures that kind of thing doesn't happen, so that when an otherwise able-bodied, useful member of society, not some drag on the street, not some guy who came here 2 seconds ago and is getting everything for nothing, with no investment into the country, emotionally or financially. I'm talking about people who are here. We've been talking about us taking care of each other. So this is a part of that.
It's really hard to help.
You don't know when you're going to get a heart attack. You don't know when you're going to break your leg. Those things can be expensive. And so having having a public insurance system means that we all share that, at least all taxpayers share that cost, so that when something happens to you, you're covered. You know that you will be taken care of. Yes, you may have to wait in line. Yes, Yes. But you're not going to need to decide about, okay, am I going to get this fixed or that fixed? Like taking a look at the financial.
Okay, you're looking at the American system, and you're thinking.
Yeah, well, that's the best private system in the world. The biggest private system in the world. Every other
look.
America, every other Western country.
Hey guys, one at a time. Let's give it.
America has 30 million illegal aliens using their healthcare system. You cannot turn people away when you go to get healthcare.
So create a problem for natural citizens.
Hold on.
By not doing the right thing, which is picking these people up and
Fredrick,
throwing them over the wall or over the border.
What I'm saying is that people think that America is a free market system. What I said is is they have aspects, they have more free market aspects than other countries, just like China isn't a free market or capitalistic market, but they have some aspects of capitalism now that they didn't before, right? But they have lots of socialism within their system, probably more than us to some extent. Lots of people, if you're poor, you do not have to pay for your health care. Okay, you do not have to pay for it.
Over 65.
If you're illegal, it doesn't matter. A doctor cannot turn you away in America. They're not allowed to turn you away. Yeah. So it's not a free market system. And all these people, they don't have to pay their bills. You think they have to pay their bills?
Well, they just ignore the cashier and walk out.
That was a lie. That was a lie perpetrated by the Obama administration, saying that 50% of people or whatnot were going bankrupt when they actually revised the numbers 4 or 5 years later. And it was like, oh, it was like 1%. And it was only people where they were already like going to go bankrupt anyways. And then they had like, you know, it was like some bullshit shit. So like, a lot of the things that the problems that were in American healthcare system that they're trying to fix, they just made worse. And yeah, we don't want to take that plunge, and I understand. And I don't want to cut off the system completely, but I think it needs to be scaled back because it's not sustainable. It's run by government, by people who don't have our interest in mind, and they never will. So why wouldn't it be better on the free market?
Okay, like, so let's. I want to dissect this, right? Because I know people are frustrated, right? They're like, "Fuck, I want to go to see a doctor and not wait in huge lines and stuff." The way it's run is shitty. The system is currently being abused. There's too many people accessing the system, and there's not enough staff to support it because there's just not enough money. Also, the hospitals that are somewhat run like an enterprise, the people who sit on these boards are making a killing. So you can't just outwardly say, well, we'll cut off all of government healthcare and we'll go all you know, the free market will take care of it.
Little by little, I've said.
No, but you did say no. We need a completely free market system, and it will not work. It will not work because companies will always do what's in their best interest, which is the bottom line. They don't. Yeah, but hold on a sec. They won't give a fuck. But we see it. No, but we just competition.
So you undercut your competitors, and then that's how people get a better deal.
No, because what you
that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
Less for a TV. Why do you pay less for every fucking thing that's on the free market? Because they have competition.
You don't pay less for TV. No, you can get around.
You do. Okay.
No. So do you know how volumes work? If you can. Okay, so go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Okay, guys. The example that you have is a very simple.
On free market.
One at a time.
It's now way cheaper than eye surgery, LASIK surgery. That is on the free market, and that went down in price exponentially, okay? Because it's on the free market. Do you think it would still be that way if it wasn't? Look at the VA in America with how they treat veterans over there. No, it's not as good as you think. But
we don't treat them very well here either.
It isn't great. It's not good. You got to wait in the line, but it's okay. No, it's not sustainable. It's gonna go kaput. We're not gonna have it anymore. And yeah, we can kick out all the illegals and the aliens and shit, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty much an irrelevant conversation to be at the end of the day, because a bunch of people are going to exploit the system. And if people weren't exploiting the system, then maybe it would be better, right? If we're more homogenous and only people who, we looked at each other like we don't want to take advantage of each other, but that's, even in a homogenous society, that's still going to happen. But
but it happens at a lot smaller degree, and there's a lot. If there's a smaller population, because most people want to work and want to pay for their own way. But using your example, let's say, oh well, the individual will, if there's access is free, they'll take advantage of it. A company, right? I'm not talking about corporation. A business will do the same thing. Yeah. So watch this for a second. Hear me out. Google, YouTube, right? Susan Wojcicki. Everybody can't stand that lady, and people are unhappy with the way they've structured their search functions, the way that people are being limited to what they can say, even in chats. And this is a business. Why are they able to get away with doing that? Hold on. Why are they Why are they are able to get away with that? Because they have mass. They're huge. You pretty much have no one to go to. Everybody that we like, what is it? VidMe, gone. Right? They had streaming.
Well, you're cherry picking like social media, right?
No, I'm giving you an example. If you have a free market, these companies will eventually, one will gain.
We don't have a free market. I've addressed this in other videos before. I don't want to address it again. Like we don't have a free market, but more of a free market is better than less of a free market.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I agree with you.
So some of the companies now that are monopolies, you may think that they got there because they're just like really, really good competitors, right?
No.
But no, they're not. A lot of these people are not really good competitors. Look at SNC-Lavalin. They had this one government contract worth $1.6 billion, and they didn't even meet the qualifications for it. Two other companies, Trillium and another company, beat their qualifications. They didn't even make the 70% mark, yet they still got the $1.6 billion contract. So how are monopolies made again? Is it through the free market, or is it through government intervention and stuff? But that's not a part of the free market. You could say it is, but it's not, right? It's not. So it's, that's what I'm saying. Like the free market does reduce prices. It does. Like it just does.
It does. It
There's
does.
no question about it.
It does. In most cases, you are right. You are right, AJ. You're right. It does raise prices in most cases, but it does not lower prices. It's been shown outside of the theory books. It has not been shown to lower prices for things that people absolutely need, like healthcare expenses have gone through the roof. They're delivered privately outside of Canada. Delivered privately in Canada. Also, military expenses. That's something that people absolutely
military is part of the government, right?
Sure, but the government could demand lower prices. There's only one customer.
Okay,
if you want to sell to the United States government, you sell to the United States government.
In World War,
a little bit something outside of that. Right here at home, Bell, Rogers, TELUS. Right. You don't think these companies? You think these companies don't have bloat and waste inside them? Every large organization does.
They don't allow competition, though.
They do, but they do have companies. Bell, Rogers, and TELUS. There's three companies, but they're a cartel. No. They've decided that telecommunications.
They don't allow outside competition is what I'm saying.
Okay, so then the outside competition comes in and says, "Oh my gosh, these guys have a great operation," and Bell and Rogers and TELUS bring their arm around them and say, "Come in, Verizon, come and pick the bones."
No, they wouldn't. Because that's not how the free market works. Okay, you can think that they'll do it, but if you allow
the Americans have with their health care system.
Listen, all somebody would need to do to corner the market and make all of the money themselves and undercut all of these three guys working together is just have cheaper prices, and then he would make all of the money, and then all these people what would they do about it, right?
But with the illusion of competition.
No,
you got to all make money now because they all say, okay, I'm going to drop my price $60 a month for 10 gig. Okay, I'll drop it for a bit. And now I sign them up, but I'm going to jack it up another 5 or 10. Okay, I'm going to do it too. Let's smoke cigars together.
We have ridiculous regulations in Canada and we don't allow competition. So big corporations like this can take advantage of those. Smaller startups have absolutely no chance in Canada where they have chances in other countries. So yeah, there's not going to be competition to these people. But we're like, we got a free market here in Canada where we have no freedom of speech and all this shit, but somehow we have a free market. It's like, no, we don't. When have we ever had a free market? A lot of the major companies, like I said,
that's true.
So the argument against a free market using examples of a non-free market just doesn't really jive with me. It doesn't make sense to me. And I understand why people think that, but it doesn't, it's like what I'm talking about, like we really need to think about it and think about what does competition do? Like just think about competition in your own life, in your kids, you know, like in school. Is competition a good thing in school? Yes. Now that teachers are taking out competition in school and everybody wins a prize, we're worse off now. Now we're worse off because competition is key to who we are as human beings in and of itself. And when you take that away, you take something away from us. And that's why capitalism itself is so human, because it does align with our natural instincts. And yes, we all have self-interest. We all want to take care of ourselves and our families first. And capitalism can harness that in a good way, in a positive way, you know, through voluntarism, through trade, through buying and selling, as opposed to force, through government, through authoritarianism, through using, you know, doing this to get people to do things your own way. Whereas what is capitalism really? People, they have a whole idea about it, but what really is it? It's just trading with people voluntarily. That's pretty much what it is. And like private property and owning things like that's it, you know. And we've shifted it into some other thing, and then this is exactly what the left wants, you know. And they combine what we have today, and they're like, this is late stage capitalism, and this is because, so see, we need government for this and we need it for that. But really, you know, I don't know. I know it's a fucking scary thought, and I'm saying I don't want to reduce it completely, because even welfare and other social programs, I don't want to get rid of completely. That would be harsh, right? We're all dependent on them right now, and there's no alternatives in the free market. And why is there no alternatives in the free market? Because the government is doing it for us and subsidizing. Why would there be private companies that have private pensions or this?
Why did the government start providing those services? Because with the market
after World War, you know, there's many reasons why they do it, but it's actually, you know what? They're like, oh, there's single mothers, and we need to help these single mothers, so we got to give single mothers money. And back in the day, the single mother rate was what, 2%? And now we give them money, and we're helping them. We start this program. Now it's 30-40% in the white race, 70% with black people and stuff in America. Like it, and that is directly because we're trying to help just some people. We start these little programs to help just a small group of people, but then that small group of people turns into a larger group of people in 10, 20, 30 years down the road, when we keep giving money to people to do bad things, you know, getting married out of wedlock and having illegitimate children, right? Like if we keep paying people, and there will be charity, there will be people. I will help. I'm telling you, man, I give charity all the time. So when we get rid of the government or we reduce it, I will be one of the first people that goes and gives some of my money and donates and goes to help people. I hope you and me and Fred and everybody here would also be those types of people, right? And we would contribute to the system. And the people who don't contribute, we would see them. Like the government that works in Ottawa isn't seeing like, oh, Jeremy down the road is taking advantage of welfare and he's been living off it for 15, 20 years and he hasn't gotten a job. But in the community, which we've lost, we have no community anymore. You would see, hey, Jeremy, guys, you know, the community's been giving him some money for about a year now and he still hasn't done anything. All right, man, we're going to cut you off because you're clearly not doing anything. Whereas the bureaucracy of the government, it's a lot harder for them to, you know, kind of individualize things and stuff. But yeah, sorry, I went on a whole fucking rant there. My apologies. Go ahead. Sorry, Frank and Chris there. Go if you want to.
No problem. Look, my main concern with what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying, but my concern is what I've observed in terms of when theory, which I agree with and I see, but when it intersects human behavior. And by that, I mean natural, I want to take care of myself, turns into I want to take care of my shareholders, means I want to maximize shareholder value, which ends up turning into something
the whole, right.
That's good.
Okay, so but it turns into something a bit greedy, and then they kind of take more than they really need to take to do what they need to do. Kind of, frankly, like government and taxes, and hey, those taxes are supposed to be temporary. Why are we still paying it? Why are people paying way more than corporations, et cetera, et cetera? So things kind of get way out of balance. And to me, governments, one, the role of government needs to be drastically reduced. I think we can 100% agree on that. But I think it serves as a powerful, in a proper form, a minimized form, can still serve as a proper counterbalance to say, we could shut you down, we could do something, we could start up a competition, we could shut down your industry if you get out of line. What out of line is a matter of opinion, but that serves as that counterbalance to that corporate system. So, for example, with our provincial healthcare systems, our government set a price list for doctors, for pharmaceuticals, etc. And if companies want to do business, whether it's delivering services as a private company or whatnot, in Ontario, for example, they have to essentially work within a certain price list in order to manage pricing. Of course, it's still insanely expensive, but they kind of have to do that. That's part of a single payer system. If they want to do business here, they have to play ball. With competition, theoretically, that could go lower, yes, but what else would go lower? Would it be wages? Would it be quality of care? What else would you have to sacrifice for that? I like the idea. I like the idea of the competition. I do like that. But there's some things to me where I want a guarantee.
Okay. What do you think about education? Do you think that should be privatized?
Oh, no. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yes. Absolutely. 100% it should be privatized.
And why should it be privatized?
My kids right now, so my answer is yes. I wish it was like, frankly, that's a system, and maybe this is where we could look at the Americans for this and for healthcare. Charters in the American system, they have schools where essentially the portion of your taxes, they give you vouchers, which are essentially the portion of your taxes that would go your public educational system. You get that in the form of a voucher that you can then spend at a private school or a charter school in your area, and you can essentially choose a school that you go to. So that's something that I think would have some appeal to me as well.
Well, the whole thing about the charter, though, is kind of like it's not, you'd have to. It's so hard to do something type of free market-ish and in a system that is overrun by the government taking care of it already, right? And the charter school system isn't really kind of like what it is, like they give people like $20,000 and maybe the school that they want to get into is like $40,000 a year or something like that, or 30,000. But it's going to be a hard transition. And that's the thing. Like I see, it's really hard for me to see transferring a lot of these things into the private sector. Right. So what I honestly see is just like a continuous go until things just fucking collapse on themselves and they can no longer sustain themselves, because nobody wants to cut anything or take anything back, or the unions control the schools. They're run by stupid, retarded teachers that can't get fired, that are teaching our kids ridiculous, stupid shit like that. That can't go on. That's why our kids, the young people today, are not. They can't be hired because they're fucking educated by retards, generally. And same with the healthcare system. Like, we're just gonna get more diversity. We're just gonna get more illegal aliens that are gonna keep using the system. It's just gonna get unworkable, and then it's just gonna collapse, and we're all gonna be fucked. And there's not going to be a private type system to take over when the government system collapses, and we're going to have to, then we're really going to be scrambling. Then we're really going to be like, oh shit. So that's why I'm really like, okay, we really need to start scaling this back right the fuck now, because honestly, all I see is destruction. All I see is it look at America, $21 trillion debt and climbing. Like,
yeah,
can that go on forever?
So guys, if I can, so I'll let you guys speak for a while. So I think this is an emotional reaction to all of the bullshit that is going on. I get it. I hate the government more than anyone here in this chat.
Not an emotion.
And Chris. No, hold on a sec. Let me finish. Because I hear, well, look at the private schools. It sucks. Look at the look at the public schools. They really suck. Look at the public healthcare system. Absolutely sucks. At some point in time, it actually worked. We were producing a high rate of very skilled and educated populace. We had a very healthy populace. We weren't shipping people because they couldn't get healthcare to the States so they could pay for it. What happened? So what happened was a successive governments, like it doesn't matter, liberal or conservative, they're all garbage, is they successively continue to get more and more engaged and rule over people more and more, and slowly erode any choices or freedoms that they've had. So the natural reaction when you're backed into a corner is to come out fighting, swinging. It doesn't matter who's in your way. So my thing is this: we keep So the way the human beings react is sometimes for every action there is an equal or greater reaction. And I think here we don't know what a true free market is. And what I believe in what a true free market is that we have, like for example, with the government, with this sort of semi-socialist system that we have socialized lethargic behavior. Whereas with what I would believe that a free market system, completely free, we will socialize greed to the point we will be in the same position we are now. What I believe is that we should have remedies available to let's say you are wronged by a company. There should be some remedy that I could take that company to court and whatnot. Without and people are going to naturally form rules and regulations. A company de facto will eventually become a sort of de facto government. It's just, you look at internally in large companies. I've worked in many. They literally do turn into sort of quasi-governments in the way they operate. They put on these bullshit processes, and the heavier the management bloat, the dumber it gets, right? Because everybody's in on the take. So, do I believe in private healthcare? Absolutely. Do I believe in private schooling? Absolutely. Do I think that we should be handing out $10,000 so lesbians can have children? Why? Like, this is dumb. What the problem is we have idiots in charge. We have too many people in charge, and it doesn't even matter. Even when you have companies that want to in a free market system, want to expand their product or their service, they will always look out for the least costly option. Even today, they don't factor in the. Well, how's that good? I just don't understand that.
You want humans to do this. This is how we innovate. This is how the reason we created a vehicle, a car, is because we didn't want to walk all the fucking way over there. It's like the cheapest, easiest. Yeah, you want to find the cheapest, easiest way, but ultimately it lies on the consumer who goes and buys that product. Because if there's competition, you choose to go buy a shitty product from Walmart as opposed to a sturdy product from, I don't know, somebody who builds a chair or something like that for you that's going to last for 80 years. So, a lot of it has to do with choice. We can blame capitalism and the process of voluntary interaction and whatnot, but ultimately it's consumerism that is a problem. And yeah, people's, and they want to buy a bunch of shit and they think they need it, and that's not good either. That's not good. And but is that directly a result of capitalism? It's like we're blaming the wealth that capitalism has produced for the humans and their their unsatiable appetite constantly for more and more and more. That's just human beings. We're always going to be like that. We're always going to want more. We're always going to want things for cheaper, for less, for whatnot. And that's okay. You want companies to compete with each other. The problem is when you don't allow competition and you know, there's a few people that are running the market, and they monopolize things, right? Like that's what you're thinking is what eventually is going to happen if you remove government. You're just going to have corporations that become quasi governments in their place. But ultimately, you have to give that corporation money for them to become a power. Right now, the government just takes your money and does with it what it will, as opposed to having less government. And I want authority. I want hierarchy. I want laws. I want these things. That having less government or no government doesn't mean you're not going to have hierarchy. Doesn't mean you're not going to have rules. Doesn't mean you're not going to have laws or anything like that. And yes, people are going to form groups and things you can kind of call governments to, you know, say, yes, in this area, we're going to follow this law, these rules. And in this Christian white area, we're all going to go by, you know, the ethics of Jesus or something like that, right? And you can enforce that by being discriminatory, right? And in your area, as opposed to, like, you know, where right now the government just imports a bunch of people in your area and you're not allowed to discriminate. Without a government, you're allowed to discriminate. So you can be like, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to serve your people here, right? And ultimately, then people could live in their own communities how they want without interference from other people, because they just won't sell to them. And they won't be charged for it for hate speech and hate crimes and all this other bullshit they get charged for. And, you know, and if a company does wrong you, you can remedy against it. And we're assuming that they're going to have the manpower to control all of this shit. They can control a lot right now because they have the government subsidizing a lot of their labor, protecting their lands from people and whatnot. But let's just say there was no government and now they had to protect a huge swath of land. They would need to hire people to do that. They would need to defend it. They would need to use people to defend it. And that would be very costly. So it wouldn't really be feasible to assume a company gets that big. But the way it's going right now, when the governments do collapse, there will be companies that are going to be that powerful, like Google and whatnot, because of the interference from the government that is making these companies extremely fucking powerful now. And eventually, yeah, they probably will get out of control. And, you know, I would be for breaking them up right now and using the government right now to break them up. Like, I'm not like a person like, oh, no, we got to go completely libertarian from now. Like, yeah, if we could break up Google and all these companies with the government, I would be 100% for that right now, for sure.
Hope for Elizabeth Warren in 2020.
Yeah, well, no, she's going to get reparations to black people and all this other shit. You know, she's just saying a lot of crap. You know, I don't believe anything she says.
So let's say we migrated to the system. Let's say tomorrow we migrate to a system where the role of the government is drastically reduced, maybe to core functions, whatever you define those to be. You know, get back to the Constitution in Canada, get back to our Constitution and Charter and British North America Act, if you want to go that far, and kind of get back to whatever we think that core function should be, limited to that, but still with some kind of power to keep things in check, or maybe not. Maybe it's completely toothless, except for those functions. So yes, you have multiple companies in competition, but companies want to grow. Companies want to maximize profits. Companies are not, you know, altruistic, charitable beings. They are things that want to grow. Even your mom and pop business, the very much wants to succeed. So eventually, to grow, companies combine. They merge. They grow that way. And what's to stop enough companies from merging that they become that power that ends up gobbling up everybody else? But I'm saying in a specific industry, a specific company, or a number of companies coming up together to dominate an industry. Where will the check and balance be for that in your model, AJ?
Well, ultimately, like I was saying, it's the consumer. So if
right, but when your choices are limited,
stupid,
you don't
if we're
really
all so dumb that we keep giving money to people who keep getting more and more power, then we kind of deserve what we get at that point. You know what I mean? And people can defend themselves in a free market and less government. We'll all have guns, and people really want to fuck with us. They'll have to deal with 30 million, 35 million angry Canadians, all armed to the fucking teeth. So they can try taking advantage of us if they want, but you know they're gonna have to deal with armed resistance at that point, right? So I'm saying, like, we'll be able to do a lot more in a free society to the people.
Well, we'll have more guns.
How many people will they have in comparison to us, right?
I know, you know, I'm taking out a lot of people.
What are they gonna bomb kill their customer base? How are they gonna make money afterwards?
They're doing it now. They're doing it now. Right? They're replacing us. No. I mean, they're replacing. We're no longer the white people are no longer
government, and this is all being subsidized by the government.
Because so we talk. Okay, I get it. The government's bad. We all agree. But hold on a second.
It's not about the government bad. It's about what
the government is not working for you. It's working for the companies. They are no longer a government, right?
Exactly.
So we're no longer a product. We don't have the wealth that a lot of these Chinese and Indians that are bringing all this kind of money.
Those are a minority of people in China. Like, yeah, we don't have their wealth. Who cares? You don't need that many crazy armaments to defend yourself. You'd be surprised what people could defend themselves with. They don't need like a bazooka or something, right? Sorry, but like, honestly, really, like, they're not. What are they going to do? Like, I think people are assuming the worst of what's going to happen if we have the companies are going to run wild and take advantage of. They're doing it now. They're doing it already with a massive government. So somehow without it, it's going to be worse for us. No, I don't think so. I really don't. Look at Article 13 and all these other things, like these laws that the governments in the EU are passing, right? Like, I'm not... Governments are what? They're just an accumulation of people, right? And that's the problem. That's the problem. People... Sorry, and so are corporations. But the difference is corporations can't make laws that govern your life and policies and regulations. Governments can't do that. They can lobby, but all they can do is lobby. That's it.
And they can also write the laws and have their politicians simply say, yeah.
And without the government, how are they going to write laws?
Well, without the government out of the way, they just do what they want.
With what? They're going to get a bunch of guys with guns to go and point at their customer base. Buy our water. Buy our food. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this, you think that's going to happen?
Okay. What's that water company I mentioned before, Chris? What's the name of them that was in South America that owned all the water in the state?
Yeah, you're thinking of...
And the people went... sorry?
You're thinking of Nestle.
Nestle, yeah. And then the people revolted with sticks, guns, and everything else, pitchforks. Nothing happened. The company just said, here, I'll pay for the military. You go clean them up.
Yep.
Do they have
land?
rights?
Take it over. Thanks.
They had guns. They didn't give a shit. This is South America. They don't
have a free society in South America. You're like, this free society in South America had their government sell their water to Nestle, and they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Like that.
It's like we did too. So yeah.
You know, like we can find 100 examples, thousands of examples of corporations doing bad shit. Okay, they're going to do bad shit. People.
That's the problem. That's the example that we have to use as a moniker.
People are always going to do bad shit.
Absolutely.
If there is a government or isn't a government. The problem is with a government, you just give these bad people more power. You give them more control over your life. That's all you're doing. The bigger the government, the more power you're giving these people. And corporations are a creation of the government. There is no corporation without governments because they're granted special privileges that me and you don't get. right? They're considered human beings, so then nobody in their establishment can be charged, right? And that's not how the actual things should actually work. These people should be going to jail. But right now, companies, corporations will willingly kill people, knowingly kill people, selling like a drug that's going to kill. They know, okay, 2% of people are going to have a negative reaction to this, but the lawsuit is only going to be a couple million, and we're going to make 50 billion, etc. So who cares? We'll pay the lawsuit, we'll pay the fine. But if it wasn't for that, like they would be held for murder. They would, like, you know, suffer repercussions for selling things that do kill people. But right now, in the system we do have right now, they don't have repercussions. They just pay a fine. Nobody in that specific company is held accountable because the whole company is held accountable of itself, right? And it's stupid. It's the system. Yeah, it is working for corporations right now, but how do we limit that? Right? It's by limiting the government.
Violence and guns is the way to limit corporate influence in your.
Well, we need to limit the government first, and that will limit corporate influence on our lives, because all they really have to do is sell you things. That's all they're really doing, is saying, hey, do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy this from me? You know, we're choosing to use these things. We're choosing to shop at Walmart. We're choosing to buy from.
That's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. Edward Bernays had fine-tuned the art of marketing and selling you shit you don't need. Every year you have a car commercial telling you the car you bought previously is a piece of garbage, and people are buying it.
I know of Edward Bernays, right? You know, I know him too, right? But that doesn't work on everybody, and it's like not everybody's watching commercials like you're thinking. It's like, okay, you're thinking, okay, Edward Bernays is the issue behind this.
Edward Bernays was adopted by many companies that wanted to sell product that people don't want or don't need. How many of us have fucking huge TVs, but there's nothing but garbage on TV?
Autonomy. You have no autonomy. We're all just robots listening to Edward Bernays, and you know, you break one egg in the cake and then they'll buy the cake mixture. You know, I remember that thing. Yeah,
I'm not saying it's completely, but you are. They feed on your.
We love to take away responsibility, right, from ourselves. I think that's what we love to do. Is
absolutely. I'm not saying that. I'm not one of those people.
Shop anywhere, but Walmart.
I don't blame anyone for forcing me to smoke. But I quit eventually, right? I'm not blaming anyone. I don't expect anyone to take care of me if I get sick from it, right? But at the same time, they do work to hook you in. You know, like in a free market, you would still have cigarette ads, and we'd have probably a bunch of kids smoking. And they're preying on weak minds.
Smoking was education. It had nothing to do with the government. It was right when we started learning more about what smoking does. That's what decreased the rates of smoking. It had nothing to do with putting packets of lung.
Oh, that's bullshit. You know that because the companies were that's bullshit. The companies were paying hundreds of millions of dollars to hide the fact that they were poisoning their clientele.
Yep, they knew for decades.
Of course,
poisonous until they were brought
what the fuck did you do when they knew their cars were blowing up? They tried to hide the fact.
No shit. No fucking shit. Of course they would do that. My point is, smoking decreased when we all found out about the effects of smoking. It had nothing to do with saying you can't smoke 30 feet in front of a hotel room. You can't do this. That didn't all these different regulations and rising the price of cigarettes to $20-30 an hour. Or pack.
That's bullshit.
Didn't affect the smoking rate drastically. What made it go from like 80% to like 20% of people was just education, was just learning. Okay. That's it. If you want people to stop doing shit, you just teach them. You don't need harm. What regulations are helping? It's just a tax grab. That's all it is. They're taxing smokers.
So let's go with the smoking example. So 80 years ago, cigarette companies knew cigarettes were harmful. That were the potential cancer causing. When it wasn't until they were brought to task by public opinion, but also information getting out from beyond that marketing bubble to say, hey, this is dangerous for people, for you. So fine. In a model where things are completely private, the cigarette companies will continue to say, hey, this is really harmful for you. And the healthcare companies might have incentive to not tell you that cigarettes are the reason, because they're getting paid to treat this issue. They're getting paid to do everything to maybe not cure it, but treat it. So in the middle, you have the government in whatever form, you big or small, that said, okay, hold on, this is a public health issue, and we need you to stop doing this. Otherwise, you're going to fine you, we're going to jail you, we're going to shut down your companies, we're going to break you up, etc. That counterbalance was there. I mean, the only other thing I could think of would be if there was some other market force that said, you know what, cigarettes are harmful, but here's a product that will help you to be better. I don't see a company arising to provide that.
So when the government banned alcohol, was that like a good idea? You know?
Actually, yeah. I don't drink, so I don't really care.
No, it wasn't a good idea. It caused a huge crime syndicate and a huge crime spree, and it fueled the underground market. So no, it's not a good idea for the government to get involved. People just need to be smarter and take fucking initiative and look into what the fuck they're doing as well.
Sheep and
it's okay. And you know what? I'd rather them be sheep without the government coming in and replacing us and saying all the crazy fucking shit they're doing right now and bringing all the debt they're doing right now and fucking over my country as we speak. Like, I'd rather a few fucking people die from cigarette smoke as opposed to, like I said, being replaced in my own country.
Glad I quit.
Sorry, so you don't think the corporate? I mean, to your point, things are happening anyway, so to make a difference.
Corporations,
corporations would do the same thing. That's like
corporations will hire.
This guy's making $30 an hour, and I can get somebody overseas to do 10, and whether I move them or not, then I'm going to get the guy who can do 10 and can do half the job, but I'm paying a third the money. Like that's the nature.
We have
exacerbated without anything in the middle.
Right, and that's fine. If people will pay different rates and stuff for different work. You know, that's okay. But yeah, right now with the way like America works, per se, you know, you got an illegal alien coming in and getting paid less money than the average worker. But that illegal alien is also getting free healthcare. He's also getting welfare because he probably has a couple baby boomers, or I mean, not baby boomers, anchor babies that are also giving him money. He's using the roads. He's getting all of these social benefits that all these people are paying into, and then they're getting paid a little bit less money. So yeah, the corporations are being subsidized by the government. Once again, you know what? You know, illegal aliens don't have to pay out of state tuition in places like California and a couple other places, but veterans, people and their kids that get moved around through different states have to pay out of state tuition. So, you know, you literally have the government giving money to illegal aliens as opposed to fucking veterans and all this other shit. So you have massive subsidization. Plus you have the programs where they're coming in with the visa programs and stuff. It's the same with Canada here. And that's being subsidized once again by us. But take all of that away. Take all of that away. And let's just say for America, per se, you had a small government that at the very least was just ensuring businesses didn't hire illegal aliens, right? Then there would be more free market. The wages would go up. Like, I kind of lost my train of thought, but like what exactly was I saying there? The whole illegal aliens thing or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the illegal alien argument, and it's not that it's not valid, but it's not the major reason, because the majority of the majority of people receiving benefits are white folks in poor Midwestern, southern states in the U.S. and in rural Canada.
It's not about receiving benefits. That's not about who's receiving welfare benefits. It's about them. It's about the illegals that are 20, 30 million also being subsidized by welfare, so then the corporations can undercut the workers, right? If illegal aliens weren't getting welfare, weren't getting driver's licenses in California and all this free passes, they would just go home. If they couldn't use the healthcare system, they would just leave, because it wouldn't be worth it to them getting paid $6 an hour to stay in America. It would be unaffordable, right? But they're only able to do that because they have a couple anchor babies, they got all this other shit, so they can get paid less, because you have all these incentives.
So I get what you're saying, but then again, you still have folks who are, you're Americans. If we're sticking them at America, Americans who are not making enough. They work. They're working at Walmart. They're working at wherever, minimum wage, but they're not making enough to pay the bills. But they're making so little, they actually qualify for government benefits. So
once again, they're subsidizing Walmart, and Walmart would have to pay these people more money if there wasn't a welfare system in place to subsidize these people. Because Walmart knows this. They know these systems exist.
Yeah, so Chris, we talked about this before.
One second, Fred, before you jump in. But Walmart has come into these towns and shut down every other business because they've come in and undercut the local mom and pop shops. They've undercut their competition. That is the place to work in town for a lot of people.
Once again,
there isn't somewhere else to go and they leave.
Walmart can take advantage of global trade and stuff, and is trade with like China and get cheap labor from China and stuff, and like build all their shit there, to get cheaper stuff. But once again, a lot of the trade that is between China and America is completely uneven, right? They got massive tariffs on them. It's not a free market. So an actual free market, let's just say you have two countries that don't have ridiculous regulations in each market, trading with each other in a free market type thing, then it would be good. Then both countries would actually benefit greatly, and we would get lots of innovation, we would get lots of different technology, we would get cheaper products between borders and stuff if it was just legitimate trade. But we're always underhanding dealing, like Canada was, and what we were doing during the NAFTA trade agreements is that we were a funnel pretty much into the American market for China and a couple other places in Europe, etc., to sell products into the American market to bypass the tariffs that were set in place for them, because we're supposed to have a free trade type market. And that's why he has steel tariffs on us too, because we were buying cheap steel from China, repackaging it, saying that it was Canadian steel, then selling it to Americans at a higher price. So it's like, Trump is not going to take off those tariffs anytime soon unless they do something about that. So, we actually got to start, changing our fucking economy drastically in the near future, because Trump is not going to back down on anything to do with the whole metal and steel shit, because America was getting fucked by Mexico and Canada funneling in products, bypassing the loophole in the NAFTA agreement. But then that's what I mean. Like these corporations, these large corporations, can take advantage of things that the government facilitates for them that smaller mom and pop stores can't. So then they get larger and bigger, get more and more money, and then these stores just fizzle and go away, because it has a little globalization and shit, right? And we think we have is free trade, but it's not. We're just funneling money out of Western countries to China and India and other third world fucking countries. That's all because it's all this uneven trade that is going on between the countries. But go ahead. Sorry for interrupting you there. This is going on a huge.
Fred, I think I was interrupted you, so go ahead, Fred.
No, I just have a few questions, because again, I think the chat's revolting here. So again, I want to fix the problem, which is too many people here. Immigration's a problem and too much government oversight. But I want to ask AJ this. AJ, so your kick for a complete free market system means to take away government because they're in our lives too much, correct? Is that a correct statement?
The least amount of government, the better. Right.
And what is the least amount of government?
Preferably, probably none. You know, I haven't.
Okay, so
100%. Maybe we need very small amount for very few things, but ultimately, I would like the free market to take care of most things.
So then we don't have borders and countries, correct?
Well, when it comes to right now in the current political atmosphere and stuff, it would probably be better to have a really small government that allowed as much freedoms to all people within the country as possible, but also, withheld or kept immigration at bay or kept a border to an extent. But you don't even need a border per se. What you really just need is to, if you do have a government or you have people, you enforce those companies, etc., to not hire illegals or people that are coming into your country.
Isn't that socialism?
What is it? And isn't the free movement of people better for business?
It's not socialism to not hire people. I'm saying I'm trying to make a concession here with you guys to be like, okay, fine, we can have a little bit of government to prevent some border crossers.
No, I want to be enlightened. So I'm open to persuasion.
You actually don't even really need too much. Actually, you don't even need too much of a border or even one at all, because the majority of people that are going to be coming into your country are only going to be people who can survive on their own and who can.
How do you control that without a border
system? Because who's going to be taking care of them? Are you going to be taking care of them? Are you going to be giving your money to these random foreigners that are coming into your country? And are you going to be supporting them?
Not for cheap labor. I mean, corporations want labor to be as cheap as possible.
They can pay them less, but those people will decide to stay there if they want to live off less money, I guess. But
sure,
they're not going to be supported by the government with all the free benefits that they get right now, that is what is enticing them over here to begin with. So the people, you're always going to get paid. Like, I will undercut you. You know what? If I can fucking get that job, I will undercut you as well. You know, if you're asking $30, I'll ask for 29. Like anybody is going to do that, right? Anybody is going to do that. But, you know, corporations have incentive, or companies have incentive to hire good people that can do the job, right? Like people are not as replaceable as you think, right? To some extent they are, but trust me, like, you know, there's a lot of fucking stupid fucking people out there that can't do a lot of just basic shit, that can't work really well. And we're not as easily replaced with Mexicans as you may think, especially if they're not getting the same benefits that they're getting right now in this current system.
I agree with that to an extent. I like to, but however, I'll just give you an example from my point of view. At the company that I work for right now, we've hired so-called outsourced these Indian technicians who are so-called brainiacs, and they're a lot cheaper than the ones we have locally, yet they are some of the dumbest idiots on the planet. Not only you cannot understand them, yet they keep their job and they keep getting promoted because they're that much cheaper, even though we have local people here that are fluent in English, that are a lot better educated and know their shit a lot better, are being pushed to the side. So
the companies have incentives to hire people that are foreigners and stuff above us too, from the government as well.
Outsourcing is not legislated by any government.
Not at all.
No. But there is recently, especially now, there's more regulations Trudeau just passed that is going to be giving a lot of companies money to hire these people above us as well.
This has been going on a long time. This goes
once again, legal immigration costs Canada $30 billion every single year.
I'm not talking about immigration. I'm talking about jobs being done in India that could be done here by Canadians. That's not immigration.
I'm for Canadians. I want Canadians to keep those jobs. I want them to get paid well.
But they're not. Jobs in Alberta. Why is it because of India? Is it
to jobs in which which
in
one?
Alberta?
Like the
Why are we
oil
losing
fields and
more
stuff?
than 100,000, 200,000 jobs in Alberta? It's because of like, you know, the Indians are taking our jobs and shit. No, it's the government.
How's sorry, I don't understand.
The regulations that they placed in Alberta on their oil fields. Why have we lost so many thousands, hundreds of
Because
thousands?
the government are a bunch of assholes. Politicians are assholes, self-serving dickheads that are being used by corporations as their puppet masters.
Indian people for calling the phone and being like, "Hello, how are you?" Oh, but whatever. Who gives a shit?
Two different things, right? The offshoring is not legislated. Every company can offshore. They're Chinese companies. It's a free market system. They've bought all the oil fields in Alberta, and they're bringing in Albertan oil workers have complained because they're bringing in these cheap Chinese labor to work on the oil fields.
Ask for too much, though. Honestly, people in Western countries ask for way too much. Their unions ask for way too much. Way too many protections.
Yeah, I agree there.
Things, and then this scares away companies to go to these companies. I'm not saying we need to be like China and breathe like fucking smoke in our lungs and shit like that.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
It's we do have way too many things. Like trust me, I work roofing, man, and the amount of safety regulations that they have is ridiculous. It makes no fucking sense. Because, you know, some retard was an idiot and went close to an edge and fell off because, you know, he was stupid or something. And now we all get punished for it. And we all have to, you know, be harnessed and do all these things. And if we don't, then the jobs are going to get shut down. We all have to go home.
I don't want to see you hurt. So I'm glad they're doing the safety. What if it's an accident? I don't want to see you hurt.
They did a training
course. Dirty work, and I'd like the earth to be relatively clean when they're done.
They did a training course. I did a training course for safety a little while ago, and they showed the building of the Empire State Building, and they showed all these guys sleeping on beams and walking across them, and like, you know, hundreds, thousands of feet in the air, and you know, they're like, how many accidents do you think happened? Everybody's like, oh, hundreds, and there were like three, you know, like 3 accidents happened during that whole construction of these buildings. Because back in the day, people were just more aware, more attentive. And now people today, they're kind of like just more absent-minded, and they assume that like everything is kind of like safe. You got to like mark everything, and like, because nobody knows there's a hole right in fucking front of them. And it's like people that I don't know what's happened, but we're way more absent-minded than we used to. And there's more accidents essentially like today than there was back in the day when we had.
Yeah, like, that could be true. That statement probably is true because they feel more safe because they have safety harnesses and whatnot. Maybe if you didn't have them, you'd be a little bit careful. But why not take the safe route to have that?
With safety harnesses, you'll die in 10 minutes if you're not pulled up in time, and because you'll all the circulation in your body will cut off, and you'll just like pass out and die, or sooner. I was doing a test, and you jump off with the harness on, and I had it on, and if you have it on wrong, which most people do, it'll be in minutes. You'll fucking pass out and die, right? And it's better than nothing. I'm not saying you shouldn't have these things, but and I like some of the things. Some of the things are common sense, right? Some of the things are good safety measures that I would do even without regulations. But I understand the need for enforcing some type of rules, and I'm not against enforcing things for people's protection and stuff like that, right? Especially, and that's why I'm saying, like, the whole even talk about no government at this point, we're jumping the fucking gun. We're really hard, and it's like, okay, let's talk about just lessening a little bit of it, you know, or do we need more of it, or what's the discussion? Like, you know,
so
do we need more or less?
I'd say I'm for lessening it and bringing it to a minimum. I think the question is, what is a minimum?
Right.
Like that's a whole discussion.
Right.
To your safety example you gave, government, that safety harness, maybe it only keeps you alive for 10 more minutes before it kills you itself, but that's 10 minutes you wouldn't have before you went splat. So maybe that government is that safety harness where it won't protect you completely from yourself. Fair enough, because that's going to
be. It also called the idiot.
It almost kill you too, because you got this rope, and you're dragging this rope around with you all the time. You like trip up in it. You're like, you fall off a roof because of the fucking harness and the fucking rope. I wonder how many accidents happened because of the fucking harness. But yeah, no, like sure. I like when I have to pull shit up like a roof, right? And like a lot of the times I'll do it without a rope anyways. I'll just like fuck it. But if somebody sees me, like, I could be fined like a health and safety. So sometimes I will have it. If I'm like 3 stories up in the air and I have to pull up like something's like 100 pounds and like, up 3 stories, and I have to do it like over an edge, then I'll hook up and I'll have like a fall restraint. So
actually, that reminds me, I remember a long time ago, I used to never wear a seatbelt in a car. I fucking hated it, right?
Yeah, I wear a seatbelt just because I want to be safe, right?
Yeah.
But education, right?
My father hated it. He's like, I don't give a, I trust my driving, but I don't care if someone hits me. It's my fucking responsibility if I go through the windshield, and I'm prepared to do it. But now everybody has a seatbelt.
Right.
It's just,
I know somebody like
the government forced you, right? You get huge fines, right?
I know, right? And yeah, it's I can understand. I can understand that. Like, I understand what people, and that's why I almost don't even want to talk about too much about like no government, because it's like, people will get into like just into the weeds and then into like, well, what about this and that? It's like, we can go on forever about that, but really, I think we're all on the same side when it comes to we want at least it to be more out of our lives than it is right now. And we all have different ideas, and I can understand why people think like, yeah, maybe we need a little bit of government just to maintain things, break up monopolies. That's all logical to me. That's all makes perfect sense, right? And I would be happy with a government that just did that, right? And that would be a good thing that I would be fine with, especially compared to what we have right now. So it's almost like I always don't like, and I got heated earlier. I'm sorry about that, but it's like,
heated. No. Like, look, guys, and in the chat, we need to. So when we're working on projects in my field, we do this storming session, and literally people are yelling at each other, throwing ideas and arguing, and eventually you come to an agreement, a solution that will work. So that's part of the storming process, right? Because there's a lot of anger in all of us. Like, I'm more angry than anybody else because I'm just fed up. I'm fed up with my kids going to school and being taught Muslims are great. I'm fed up with government taking money from my wallet to fund their own little pet projects. It's bullshit. But I'm trying to get to the truth, and I want to find a solution, right? And I know some people go differently about it, and that's fine too. I'm willing to be persuaded, right? But I think sometimes we may get immersed in like one particular idea, and we try not to think thoroughly through it, right?
Well, yeah, I try to think of examples of situations where we could even try to use democracy and shit to our benefit. And it's like, if I have to use the system at the moment that we have to get what I want, then I'm going to try to use that system, right? And I'm not going to be like those libertarian, no matter what, I'm not going to do anything, or whatever, if I had control of the government right now, I would break up a lot of fucking companies, and I would like do a bunch of shit, a bunch of authoritarian shit, possibly, and like not violently or whatever, but you have to at this point. Honestly, it's reached the point where like there's no choice but to use the government, to scale back the government without it. Well,
like what did the conservatives? Harper promised that a scaling back of the government. That didn't really, come to
We hired
fruition.
more people than anybody.
Yeah, more people. Yep. And then like PPC, I doubt that the government will get any smaller as well. It's just a part of the process, right? As the system gets bigger, as you have more people, you need more people to manage it, and that bloat grows on and on forever. Now, I got a letter in my inbox asking me if I'd like to be a candidate for PPC. I would never get any votes because the first thing I would go out there and say is, well, I'd fire about 40% of the government staff. I'd cut off immigration completely. I'd start hunting people down and throwing them outside the country, maybe sending those people that were coming through Roxham Road. I'd be shipping them back the same way. Those things are very unpalatable to a lot of people. I would say, oh, gun rights for everybody. Everybody can have a gun, except for criminals. Obviously, it would have to have some checks and balances. I wouldn't want a free for all Wild Wild West system, but go back. People should have if they have a right to have a TV, alcohol, cigarettes, a shitty car, a good car, whatever. They should have a right to have a firearm. It's just it's a product, right? But I would never ever get a single vote because truth hurts. Right, as we've seen, right? Sometimes even it's hard for me to fathom a completely free market. I don't think it'll work, but it's even just unfathomable. But this is the way I look at it.
Right. That's totally understandable, right? And some things just trigger me, and no, they don't trigger me, but yeah, I'm fine with that because yeah, I could possibly be wrong, and I want to be open to that, but I am fairly certain that at least I know the answer isn't probably more government, a bigger one. But yeah, that's what I mean. I think we all agree on downsizing things, and the bureaucracy is massive and unmanageable, and they're not working for the people, and we need some way to hold these people accountable in the meantime, right? While in some way. But how do we do that? How do we hold politicians accountable for what they're doing? Look at Article 13 today. The majority, I'm pretty sure, of the EU, of the people, all reject it, right? And of the population, but all of the nation states or the EU, they still voted for it. So it's they don't give a shit what their people want. So
hey,
how do you hold them accountable? Sorry, go ahead.
We got a caller. We got James. He's in the chat.
How's it going, buddy?
I was going pretty good. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah. So how's your channel going?
I was going pretty good.
Yeah, nice.
Since I came over to your channel, I picked up a bunch of new subs, so thank you, sir.
Oh yeah, nice.
Get everybody coming over.
Nice.
And AJ, I hate to say this to you, however, sir, you've said something heretical that I need to take issue with you on. AJ is never wrong. I ever hear you say that again, we'll come to your house exterminatus style. Okay, so don't ever say that again. AJ is never wrong, all right?
AJ is never wrong.
That's right. AJ is never wrong.
I agree. I agree.
I thought you might like that one.
Yeah. Nice.
So Jamesy, I watched your channel for a little bit. What do you think about our discussion today? You have any inputs?
No, I agree completely. No, it's the same thing. I run into the brick wall all the time, because I'll tell people I'm a libertarian, you know what I mean, or I'm center right, and they'll go like this. They'll go, "Oh, okay," and then we'll start talking about government, and they'll launch into what AJ was just talking about of no government, you know what I mean? And I'm like, that's retarded. That won't work in reality. That's a utopian ideal that won't function. And then I get pushback. You're not a libertarian, and I'm like, no, I'm just not an idealist fucking libertarian. I'm actually living in the real world, functioning with it, and I have to, I want things to work, not spin out of control. And it's the same thing I run into too with people that like capitalistic markets. They'll say, you need all capitalism, and if we could just get rid of the government and get it out of the capitalistic system, it'd be great. And again, you run into the same problem with the no government mentality. You're going to run into the same issues again. I mean, limited, yes, but government's good in the aspect that we need it there, because there's been no society I know of that has ever functioned without some system of government. There hasn't been.
Well, every primitive society has formed some sort of authority, small group of authority individuals, like, even to the smallest troglodyte systems where you had a shaman who was looked upon, and he would base those decisions on.
So what happened to like the smallest government to have ever existed?
We voted idiots in.
No, like America, right? That's probably one of the smallest governments that have ever existed, right? And they're now expanded to become the largest government that has ever existed. So everybody, they want to be like, well, it's just stupid because blah, blah, blah. But I have no real alternatives. And, it's just limited. But how limited, I don't really know. And how are we going to prevent the expansion? I don't really know either, right? So it's like the government, the republic, had a lot of things to prevent it from getting out of control, the Constitution, all these different things, right? But clearly that didn't fucking work. So we need something a little bit different. We need...
Yeah, you know what we need?
It didn't go far enough.
Yeah, you know what we need?
America has the biggest government and the biggest corporations.
Yes, that's right. You know what we need? We need people to start speaking the truth, saying things like, we have too many people. No, we don't need any more immigration.
Of course. But why do we have too many people?
Corporations.
Why do we have too many people?
Because corporations and governments work together.
Money to Africa.
Which country?
That there you go. That started with the cheapest labor, the free ones. It started from back then.
I was gonna say, because as far as I know, the Mexican thing, that was to help farmers out in California back like almost 100 years ago.
Yeah, well, I there was a forum with some farmers saying that if you want to solve the immigration problem, stop eating, as if like no people would want to work on the farms.
Right. Well, my thing is as automation comes along and as automation starts taking more and more jobs over, they're screwed. Because if your argument is who's going to pick your corn, well, it's going to be a machine.
Well, that's the thing about automation as well, is like, yeah, those people will be replaced. And yeah, we have an overpopulation problem, but once again, nobody wants to really address the fucking real problem. And it's we're giving money to people who shouldn't be breeding, and they're having too many kids that are not going to be able to pay into the system. And what is driving all of this? Who is giving money to single mothers to have a bunch of illegitimate kids that are not going to be able to compete with the fucking Chinese and all these other people? Who is doing all this? Who is teaching their kids all of this shit to be trannies and do all this other crap?
Jewish people.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys on YouTube, don't cancel me. I'm sorry.
Jews out of the government.
Broke under the pressure.
But, I don't know. It's fucked. But like all I know is that it's rampant. It's out of control. And we all agree it should at least be reduced, right? Yeah. And we can discuss and argue about whether it would be better in an anarcho-capitalist type society where it's not like there's no rules or anything like that. There's no law, no hierarchy. There still would be. There's still law, but or just having a minarchist society with borders and a few other things. But the only problem I have with the minarchist society is with the eventuality that it's going to grow to become a large government. And how do you prevent the growth of that government? Because, like that's just human nature, essentially. That's why I just don't want to give people too much power over me, because humans will always exploit that power. They will always have it corrupt them, and they will always try to benefit themselves above the population at large, and their own pockets.
And AJ, to your point, this is going to be, I'm going to slide us a little off track. But the the final frontier. I was thinking about this was that NASA and SpaceX and China even, and even India to a certain degree is getting very fucking serious about going to other planets, mining asteroids, all this other crazy shit.
And they talk about IQ in their countries, right? They don't have a political correctness.
The thing is that when it comes to that, you can take a single asteroid out of the asteroid belt, according to NASA. You can mine it, and you will get more gold in minerals out of that single asteroid than you will than man has mined gold in the entire history on Earth out of one asteroid. Now, if you can do that, and there's millions of these damn things, so imagine that kind of power, that kind of economic, you know what I mean, powerhouse.
China will fall before that ever.
Yeah, but it's also the krill and the scrolls and the Klingons.
But
no, don't worry, Miss Marvel to the rescue, right?
You're right. No, but
Klingons,
here's my point, guys. Here's my point, and this is why I became a kind of an imperialist. You know what I mean? This is why I started going that vein, was because in order to do these things, right, these major fucking projects, you've got to have lots of nations combined together.
So what did going to the moon like do for people?
Well, I mean, here's my point, AJ. If this is our future, and it more than likely is, even if it's not in our lifetime, we've got two choices: we can lead or we can follow. And the question is as a country, do you want to lead as your country, or do you want to follow China? Because I'm pretty sure following China is not the greatest fucking idea.
Well, you know, a lot of these inventions, a lot of these things that made rockets capable or able to fly in the first place, where do they happen? Like where country did it take place in?
America,
V2 rockets,
right? And a lot like the Chinese, like they stole all their information. You know, they steal all their fucking shit. So it's like, you know, there's only so fucking high that they're really gonna go. And but I agree. Yeah, there's, you know, right now it is, when it comes to global politics, that's when it's like, yeah, okay, having no type of border protection whatsoever may not be the best solution at this moment, right? You know, I think we still need to reduce the government as much as possible within our countries to increase the wealth, the prosperity, the life of all the people within the country. But, you know, we could still collectivize as community members, as people of a country, to, you know, keep out foreigners, to keep out people that we don't want to come into our country to take advantage of it.
And that's the thing. A lot of people, something, AJ, a lot of people don't understand about the United States, is that our system's set up where the United States is one country, right? But California is actually a sovereign state. So anytime the feds want to do something in California, California can technically throw them the fuck out of the state if they want to. They're not gonna, because they get funds from the federal government to fund all their, you know, socialist bullshit. But so they won't, because there's a money incentive. But they could. They are well within their rights to do it at any point, because every state in the United States is actually a sovereign state unto itself.
Do you think California, given its size, contributes more tax-wise into the U.S., into the rest of the U.S. than it gets back?
Good question. I don't know.
I mean, it's 50, 60 million people in California. Yeah, I mean, think about the tech sector as well as other things. They also have oil on their own. I mean, I don't know tax-wise.
Pardon me, Jamesy, did you click on the link? Did it work for you? Because I know the one is trying to get into it right now, but it's not working for him.
Yeah, I clicked on the one in your chat and it worked for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. The one, not sure.
Who's trying to get in? The one?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell him to reload the chat screen on the stream and then try it again.
Well, you got to go to Chrome. You got to open it through Chrome and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. I noticed it doesn't work for. I have Blue Moon and Mozilla. It just doesn't work, so I have to do it through Chrome.
That's so weird. It doesn't work for those though. I mean, it's really odd.
Well, Google, right?
Google. Yeah.
Free market.
They want to get all your information.
Yeah.
As we talk about them
Bastards.
through their service and their browser and their app.
Ooh, actually, hold on. Before the tax cuts, California high taxes were partially subsidized by out-of-state taxpayers.
Okay.
So, no, apparently California is not the biggest donator of federal funds.
Well,
I mean, not on a-
one, but I think
maybe-
it's a
maybe-
net positive to the rest of the country. But okay, never
Aren't
mind.
they the most indebted like state in America or something?
Yeah, no, they're massively indebted. Yeah, the
Not
thing is,
compared to Ontario.
well, they're a coastline, so yeah, they're a coastline state, so they're going to be popular no matter what you do.
Hey guys, are we? I know. I know Skype allows you to bring in people. Are we able to bring in the one forcibly? You know what I'm talking about, Chris?
Yeah,
Forcibly.
Yeah,
get in here.
that's right. Pull him by the scruff of the neck, man.
Hey, you got something to say? Get in here.
All right.
I'm just picturing Fredrick getting a ball gag ready.
Unless the one shared their email address they have associated with their YouTube account, that would be the only way I could think of. But
Okay.
yeah, I don't want to put that out there, so yeah, we can leave that alone for now.
No, I think the one has probably wants to bring up a few points. I've been watching him in the chat, so
I'll try sending it again in the chat, but I don't know why it's not working. Like to get one more person in here, so it's not 3-on-1.
I'm on your side, AJ. Come on, man. Come on, bro.
And
I
sons
think
of
our
bitches.
friend Susan from YouTube is capped the people, to have this discussion.
That's why. Thanks to AJ, I have this free, this bacterial-ridden animal in my house now, scratching my furniture.
Mega Trucker, is that the one or is that somebody else? Hello? Say something or get out.
You scared him, man.
I was kidding.
AJ.
That's
Come
awesome.
back,
Change
man.
that truck to a Pinto.
It's sad when a French Canadian can scare somebody out of a stream. Oh,
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's tired Canadian. Let's get him back in here. Come on, tired. And everybody
Tired.
called, and everybody was making me. It was making. Everybody was making fun of Chris and I as boomers. We couldn't get our chat working.
Well,
Yeah.
you're the boomer. I'm not a boomer. Definitely.
I'm not a boomer either.
well, and that's the thing. That's the back to your earlier point, AJ. That's the thing is I run into a lot. Is I'll run into some crowds that are like, no government, it's always bad, and I run to other people that are all government is always good, and I'm like, guys, it's actually somewhere in the middle. It depends what you're doing,
Yeah.
how big you are.
Yeah.
There's 100 different factors. So
I
you,
think that's a big
Yeah.
problem.
Well,
that we
you know
have
what,
these
I'm
days.
an
People are so
extremist.
polarized. It's like it's not
I'm an
one or
extremist.
the other. It's a combination.
right. Well, when people say limited government, I'm like, cool. All right. So what's the limit? You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm cool with that idea. Being in
Well,
that,
you can always say like George Carlin once said. He goes, "The best government is a monarchy," because every once in a while, if the guy fucks up, you just chop off his head.
there you go.
Right.
There you go. Problem solved.
Yeah, I'll say I'm an extremist when it comes to right-wing ideology, but not the like the right-wing ideology they think, right? Because it doesn't make sense to me, the progression, like it's conservative, libertarian,
Mhm.
and Nazi.
Yeah.
Big government, massive Nazi, and you're like, what? You're like, no, wouldn't it be no government? Wouldn't that be the extreme right?
Right, exactly.
That's what it is. That's
No,
the
no, no.
extreme right. I'm the extremist. Like,
See,
right.
AJ, that's the left. The left has said that's them. The left also doesn't include Nazis as the National Socialist Party. They don't. That's not. Pay no attention to that.
Right,
which
right.
which I always think is deliciously funny when I run into a hardcore socialist and I'm like, oh, you're just a fascist on a smaller scale. And they're
Because
like, no, yeah, you are.
right, because like they're way worse because they want fascist government or authoritarian government, but the person, the far right, the true far right person, honestly, what they really just want is no theft going on, because they believe taxation is theft. So if they just want no government, then they just want they don't want the government interacting in other people's lives and fucking them over, really. So it's like much better than the extremists on the other end. I don't like people that be like, oh, they're the same thing. And I wouldn't really say it's, I guess, an extremist, but I don't know. I think that it's an ideal, and I don't think that it's like people are going to want to live in that type of society, because ultimately you would need people that are smart enough to do it and have a sufficient level of intelligence and whatnot. Like, you couldn't do it with like a society that had like a average IQ of 80 or something like that. But that's the thing. That's why I think socialism, even the small amount that we do have, it usually gets out of control, and then it's breeding dysgenics. Like it's breeding, like, I hate to say it, but that's what it's breeding. A lot of stupid people, a lot of stupid white people are being bred. Asians or whatever, whoever's using the system more is getting more fucked. Look at the Aboriginals. We're fucking them by giving them money. It's really hard to help people. It's really hard to help people. And the way that we've been trying to help people for so many years has just been destroying their lives, has been getting them addicted to painkillers that the government gives them. So now they're on fucking meth and all this other shit. And, if we weren't trying to help the Aboriginals, or help them, they'd probably be a lot better off. We didn't give them anything. We didn't give them nothing. They wouldn't be drunks on fucking reserves, killing themselves continuously. But that's the way they are now.
Yeah.
Look, like the U.S. a long time ago had eugenics laws. They would actually prevent poor people from having.
Well, I don't want that.
Well, I mean,
just let the free market deal with it. Hey, if you can't make enough money to support a bunch of kids, then you won't have a lot of kids. And if you do have a kid, then the government's not going to come and support you. It's going to be your family that's going to have to take care of it. So they're going to have incentive to teach you right. So then they don't have to take care of your.
Are you familiar with the Spleeman land? Hold on, Chris. Let me.
Cousins. Okay, go ahead, Fred.
Sorry, let me just jump in. So, are you familiar with the Spleeman hand laws in the UK during the Industrial Revolution?
No.
Okay. So those laws were somewhat called the bread laws, because during the Industrial Revolution, it was almost quasi free market, right? You had a very little small government, but you had very large corporations that were flourishing because they were growing, and they needed workers. So the rural people would have like 6-10 kids, right? Because they weren't necessarily controlled by the government. They weren't on any subsidy. But as they were coming into the cities to work in these factories for jobs, because out in the fields they were starving, the government had to step in and actually enact a law called the bread laws to have people divvy out the right amount of bread. Otherwise, the bodies would start stacking up. So, like, any extreme is bad. Any polar extreme is bad, right? I think the way to limit government is straight up say, we don't support this. Limit immigration. No more subsidies for farmers. Farm subsidies are huge. Yeah. Millions of dollars, right?
There's bread lines in communist countries, not capitalist countries,
No, that was in the Industrial Revolution. You look it up. They had to.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like you're gonna find this example from the Industrial Revolution where the only real good examples of people in bread baskets are in fucking Russia and China in communist countries
AJ,
where
AJ.
they have an undersupply of bread because they're not producing way more than we have so much bread in our countries. We don't know what the fuck to do with it. We'd rather have that problem than not enough bread, right?
AJ, you got to be fair, buddy. Okay. They didn't have bread lines in China and they didn't have bread lines in Stalin's Russia. He just starved everyone to death. There was no line. Right. Everyone just died.
You're right. There was just rocks at the end of those lines. Smashed them on the head.
But again, you get stupid people. Like maybe we should rethink this, and maybe everybody should do a fucking what do you call it? A skills test to enter the government. And to enter the country. So no, hold on, listen, because in China, right, you had this guy Mao, who was such a clown. He had to have people scoop shit from his asshole because he couldn't even take one, and he wanted to emulate Russia's 5-year plan. So what did he do? He says, okay, guys, we're going to make fucking tanks and planes and everything else just like Russia did. So everybody's going to cut all this fucking wood and melt all the goddamn material down so we can build all this shit. So they melted rakes and stupid, poor metals into these huge cast iron melting pots that they would have in the fields. And they cut down every tree to run these things. And then what they got was shitty guns, shitty tanks. Everything was just inferior. And then there was a great famine, which then caused 23 million Chinese to starve. Why? Because you had a fucking retard, just like they have in North Korea, run the show. And we're no different. We just have a bigger group of retards running the show. Right? It's right. Smaller government is good because it's easier to control. And this is why I said earlier on our other podcast, we should separate. We should literally, you want to fucking fix them? Break down into smaller units. That way you don't have these federales sitting somewhere far away enacting all these bullshit schemes to fuck over their own populace. You have these smaller governments. They're closer to home. You can go over, hey, Joe, I heard you passed this law to allow more Mexicans or Muslims into the country. Here, let me give you a few slaps. Slap, slap, slap. It'll be like your dog. Your dog misbehaves. You kick it a little bit, then it'll behave, right? And once in a while, you need to repeat that action, right? Sorry.
Right. Well, yeah, I'd be for limited government. Just that's the thing. Like whatever's less than what we have now, I'll be like, yeah, let's do it.
And one of the secret sauces that I'm going to call it a secret sauce. It's not a secret. But one of the things I've noticed in the United States that we got that I haven't seen really replicated in another democratic country at all, which is kind of off-putting. I mean, it is to a certain degree replicated, but not as severe as ours is. Because we have 3 separate branches that are very distinct on their own. They have their own distinct powers, and they can check and balance each other. And that's what they're solely designed to do, very strictly. And the thing is, I go over to Britain, and I see that kind of, but not really. I go to Australia, kind of again, but nah. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things that you run around Europe and you look at all their democratic governments, and they kind of have the same system, but not really. Again, in Canada, I don't know if you guys do or not, but you guys can speak to that. I can't speak intelligently on your guys' government like that, but
right.
Well,
go ahead. Sorry,
but like Congress can make a law. They can say this is a law, and the president can say no, fuck you, it's not. And then if they do write a law, and then somebody says no, this is screwing us all up, they take it to the Supreme Court, who's completely separate from all entities, and nobody can control them. You know what I mean? And then they decide. They're kind of the referee. And they don't give 2 fucks politically one way or another what anybody thinks. They really don't care. And it's why they're not politically elected. It's why you can't elect them. It's why you can't fire them without them doing something incredibly egregious. It's why they're appointed by the president. It's, but they got to get the nod from the Senate. This is, again, the whole system is built on everybody has got to agree, kind of a thing. But in a lot of other places, I see something like this, but not completely. And I kind of go, I wonder if that's what's screwing them up.
Yeah, well, and we're breeding a bunch of morons. Actually, there was Jamesy, there was this American girl. I watch her channel. She's with Alex Jones' channel, and she's a blonde girl. She carries around everywhere. She went on a college campus asking students, "Hey, I heard that Warren wants to get rid of the Electoral College. What do you think the students are going to do?" And every single one of them are like, "Yeah, like we should help the students. They shouldn't just be left out in the cold." They don't even know what the Electoral College is. So what? And this is why they want to lower the voting age. No, they should fucking up it to like age 30, and they have to have property rights.
Love it.
It's the amount of no minds that are out there because they're I don't know, they're watching sports or some bullshit on TV. I don't watch TV. I watch YouTube. I watch all of you guys' channels because you have more to say than anything else that any of these nincompoops on the channels have to say. I don't watch sports because I need my own private time wherever I have left is to read the books that I can read, to try to rifle through them. That's it. That's what people should do, is get more educated. But somewhere down the line, that beautiful Californian dream, which was, go there and make it out on your own, strike it out, has generated a generation of very lazy idiots who just consume media. I mean, when I was a long time ago, I was working for a company. Somebody said, "Oh, you should check out Facebook," and I'm like, "What is that?"
Millennial hate.
No, hold on.
Millennial hate.
One World War II.
I'm a next gener. So
One World War II. Let him talk.
So people are telling me, "Oh, you got to get on this Facebook." And I'm like, "Well, what is Facebook?" "Oh, you go in there and you could see what people have done in high school." I go, "Why the fuck would I be interested in what some idiot did in high school? I don't give a shit." It's just this ridiculous, asinine things that we're into, and we stop being not educated. A lot of people are educated today. I mean, literate and just knowledgeable and common sensed. It's gone out the door. This is why we always vote successively more idiotic governments.
Yeah.
And I went on the rant there. Sorry.
I agree. It's just, the boomers failed the millennials and didn't raise them right. And they're acting this way. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. But yeah,
the boomers were the millennials' parents, so they taught their kids.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't. They were, they were the Gen Z's kids or something. But I'm joking. But
actually, just for shits and giggles, one mentions that he said that he watches UFC. I don't know. I'm going to bring up Benjamin Owen on his thoughts on UFC. Guys grappling each other with their heads in their crotch. Anyways,
right, yeah, that is a gay aspect of it. But the thing about Owen Benjamin, I guess some of what he says, but he seems like just, I don't know, he's just saying a lot of shit. He's just saying a lot of crap that I don't know. He just seems kind of like wishy-washy to me.
Watch it. Both of us are going to start losing subs because of these bears. They might be in the chat.
Yeah.
Fucking retards. He tried to.
I've watched a little bit of
he
stuff.
Tried to ban me on. I do. Like, he's a little bit too. I was on Anomaly's channel, right? And I was participating in the chat, and I said, he's like, "Okay, everybody, all the bears, go and upvote Anomaly." And I said, "Shut the hell up, Owen. Don't tell us what to do. What are you, like a government stooge?" And he's like, "You're banned." I'm like, "Dude, I'm not even in your chat. Fuck off." Right. That's a joke. But he's funny. He's funny.
Yeah,
anyway.
Go ahead. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
So what's happened in your pond there, Jamesy?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say something back to Eric Butler in the chat, which is he was saying, though there's activists in the courts, he's got a point to a degree, to a very, 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 very limited degree. You do.
Our Supreme Courts are fucking full of them.
But it's not like Republican presidents are nominating Democratic nominees for.
Well, the thing is that that our Supreme Court here, though, if you track every decision they make, which is around 2,000 a year, they see about 2,000 cases a year. So the ones that a lot of people cling to are the ones the media covers when let's say Obama appoints a left-wing quote unquote judge, and he or she disagrees with Obama's thing, pushing it through, you know what I mean, that they want to do, and they disagree with it. Suddenly everybody goes, oh, they were a fake Democrat or they were a fake leftist. No, it's because by and large, the courts, the judges don't give a fuck. There's two ways to interpret the Constitution. This is where it comes down to. Is that the Constitution, when judges come down on it, they come down on, if they say they're a liberal judge for our Supreme Court, they're saying that they take the Constitution and they try to apply it to today's standard of living, today's standard of society. Okay? That's that's a liberal interpretation. It's a liberal judge, quote unquote. If a conservative judge, okay, is someone who says, okay, what does the Constitution say, and I'm going to abide by it only. I don't give a shit what our social norms are. That's a conservative for the Supreme Court. That's what those two words really do mean. And we've taken it, and our cable news networks have twisted this meaning to mean no. They're conservative judge. That means they agree with Trump and Bush. No, it doesn't. You know what I mean? It was not too long ago when our
like stopping Trump's like orders.
Yeah.
When he's like, you know,
Kavanaugh was the deciding vote, and he stopped it. Kavanaugh.
Well, not only that, but those other ones. What are those lesser courts that often block his decisions to
the circuit courts, the circuit
like the Ninth Circuit or whatever.
Yeah, those are appellate courts,
and you know, they're always going and you know, like oppressing him or not opposing him in his rules or whatever that he's imposing. And it's like those are the ones that I think people have real issue with. But we also, but we don't want like liberals interpreting the fucking Constitution, because they're always going to interpret it to give away your rights, because they're gonna make, well, freedom of speech. Well, you know, we don't really need it anymore. It's not really it's good anymore. It's not a it's hurting. It hurts people's feelings. Yada yada yada. We can interpret it differently, and they'll always like just like interpret it for the worst every single fucking time.
And if you want a great example of that, just look at England or the UK. You got somebody who got fined, I think it was like $500 for identifying a girl on Twitter incorrectly and saying something mean to her.
Yeah, that's tranny. We brought that up already. Yeah.
You got what was it, Count Dankula going to jail. You had the girl singing a lyric.
Dude, this happened in Canada here.
Jail. I was
so like it is, AJ's right. We have activist judges here. We had one judge who just recently overruled these five gypsies to come into the country because they were under duress in a safe country. They said, oh, you know, they've been marginalized and they're running away from what? In Hungary? When was Hungary facing a civil war? And then that's the same judge that overturned our previous leaders' niqab ban at citizenship ceremony. So during you're taking your citizenship similar to the American oath, you have to show your face. You put your hand on the Bible and swear allegiance to the Queen. I don't like that piece, but anyway, it doesn't matter. And then we had another judge who overruled the complete burqa ban at a citizenship ceremony. So we have activist judges everywhere. It's just and this is the problem, because we have a system that's there to, which is to remedy wrong, but it's used in a malicious manner. And I don't see it, at any time soon slowing down, regardless, conservative, Republican, or liberal or Democrat.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Now talking about just getting into the differences between the Bill of Rights and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Americans have a lot stronger Bill of Rights. Like the whole document, it basically the citizen comes before the state, whereas in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, it's the state comes before the citizen.
Yeah, and if you want a very simplistic way to understand our Constitution, for people outside of our country, a very easy, simplistic way is don't read our Constitution as these are the rights you have. Read them as these are the rights that the government can't fuck with. These are things the government can't touch.
But it's also, sorry, go ahead. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
that's kind of, because I've ran into people that went, well, no, because your Bill of Rights says this, and I'm like, right. That's it's not telling the government they have to provide that. It's that Bill of Rights is telling the government they cannot touch this. Under certain conditions, they can, of course. I mean, because there's there's wiggle room and everything. You got to be able.
Well, there's also case law, right?
Yeah,
there's lots of case law that you can't even really necessarily even read. You can read the Constitution, but that's if you think you're like learning the law by reading the Constitution, you're not, because a lot of these things are like there's case law after case law after case law that have amendments after amendment after amendment. That's why they have lawyers and shit, because they know all that fucking shit. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say we got the one that couldn't get on earlier. He's on, yay!
Hey, the one. How's it going, buddy?
There we go.
And we can hear him. Sweet.
Yeah, long time, man. I've seen you on my channel in the chat.
Amazing.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. So, what did you want to bring up earlier? I know you wanted to get into the discussion, probably when it was about government.
Yeah, America was libertarian from post-Civil War up until 1913. So saying you're a radical is bullshit because it was libertarian, and so was Canada too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trudeau was born.
So can you define that a little bit more? So I I understand.
There was none of these laws about labor unions and all that shit, and we had the biggest economic growth. Not even China today could touch us. Nothing could touch that period of America. Canada too. The Wilfrid Laurier days was very libertarian as well. Sorry, I can't talk too much because everyone's sleeping in my house.
So why do you think the labor unions came in? Wasn't it in response to, okay, let's give people a work week, let's give them proper wages?
That was already coming to that was already going to happen regardless. Like kids were no longer working in factories. They're working less and less and less in factories as
working in factories and all was a problem, but okay.
As our wealth.
Child labor.
Yes and no, not necessarily.
Child labor was removed because of better tools, innovation, not government. People say, government saved child labor. No, that's bullshit. I gotta talk quieter. Sorry, I'm gonna wake up my fucking pops.
Yeah, the one wasn't it Henry Ford? He established something like the 8-hour workday or something, I think.
Henry Ford, under the gold standard, we got paid $5 a day. That was 1.5 ounces of gold. Okay, 1.5 ounces of gold today is $2,000. So workers were getting $2,000 a day. All right. Now with this fiat money and borrowing money and devaluing our currency to pay off all that borrowed money, we got fucked all.
What I'm talking about, the one is the factory times though, because he established actually the first factory lines where people putting together cars. I thought he actually is the reason why we have 5 days of work and then 2 days off.
Yeah, he did that to probably make his workers' lives better. Did he do it through government? I don't think so.
No, he didn't.
He
didn't
exactly. He did that to make his workers' lives better, and in return, he'll get better products.
And the government actually tried to shut him down because there was another group. I think it was like the wagons or something with the horses and shit. Were trying to shut him down. There's some kind of
because that's kind of almost like the automation argument that we're kind of hearing right now. It is frightening, but I think we're also not thinking about the possibilities of automation could bring, and what new innovation, what new type of jobs could bring. Like, imagine you didn't have to drive, right? And you could have your hands free. What kind of, like, how much time would that open up for people to do other things, maybe do other types of jobs, make money while they're just traveling, you know? Like, it could open up a lot of different potential that we're not seeing right now. Like, when the horse and buggy people were like, oh, the Ford is going to ruin all these jobs, are going to get lost, we're going to be fucked. They couldn't foresee all the new jobs that cars and whatnot was going to provide people in the future, and the ease of life, and how much better our lives are now with vehicles as opposed to if we stayed with the horse and buggy, which what we're kind of almost hearing right now, where it's like, we got to stop progress and slow it all down so that people still have jobs to, you know, mine fucking rocks with a pick or something, right? I don't know. You know, maybe it's a good thing to do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we should slow it down but you know, it's just it's a complicated subject, I think. And
I have a question for the one. So you're talking about Wilfrid Laurier's time, and he was a libertarian. Fine.
The liberals used to be libertarian, and the conservatives were big government. They were for protectionist. They were for big government. The liberals back in the day were libertarian.
True. And then it's somewhere down the road it flipped, where
it switched in the 1950s when Mackenzie put in the welfare state. He put in Social Security, the pension, and I think he put in the health care. That's when it switched, 1950s.
Okay, so what changed? Because we had a population in 1867 of 3 million versus 32 million, and we didn't even have a lot of the provinces united into a confederation, right? So what was different then that it is now that warranted an increase in government and labor laws?
Because politicians get votes by promising shit.
Yep.
That's how they get elected, and then they implement this shit. The politicians come and say, "Oh, we'll give you workers' rights. We'll give you free shit, free that, free this, free that," and the people fall for it, and they vote them in, and then they implement these laws. That's how government grows.
Right, and that's what I was bringing up the example earlier about how the single mothers, right? There was a welfare state pretty much started out for them. It's like, oh, well, we'll take care of these women that are, you know, single mothers, and it's such a, we're so rich, you know, we got so much money, we're doing so well because we got the free market, we're money is coming out of our asses. Yeah, we could pay for this. This fucking be easy. And so it grows, and now we have a massive problem where the government is paying women to have kids out of wedlock because they're getting paid money if they're not together. That's what I mean by the government. Like, if the woman and man are not together, she's getting money. But if as soon as they come together, then it's like, okay, now it's a lot harder to get on welfare. So this is incentivizing people to be single. And you know what? Kids growing up in single parent households are 30 times more likely to be abused by a man that is not biologically related to them. So, you know, that it's just breeding so many problems in society because now all these kids are being abused. They're not being taken care of. They're being raised by their computer or something. And a mom can't raise kids properly. Like, they need a man in the house to raise.
It's exactly like corporate welfare. They've been bailing out Bombardier since I was a kid, like since 2002 when I was like fucking 10 years old, and they're still bailing them out. It doesn't work. You make those companies dependent on that money. They never make the necessary restructuring to make a profit. Because, oh, we don't have to restructure because the government will just bail us out. It's the same thing with regular people on welfare. Oh, we don't got to make our lives better. We don't got to get a better job, or we don't got to better ourselves because the government will take care of us.
Yeah, I see it every day. You know, I grew up around people like that and stuff.
Yeah.
You just live off of the system, and you're like, they don't ever change.
Yeah, but it's political suicide if you talk about taking away welfare and corporate welfare. It's political suicide. You'll never get elected.
Pretty much.
We're screwed, bro. We're screwed.
So So I understand what you're saying, and I agree that we need to limit government to, I don't know, days that maybe in the 60s. But what changed?
Not all single mothers. Just had to add that in there.
So what happened in 1867? Because 1867, James, you correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not too familiar with American history. I think in 1867 you were still chasing Indians, and I think you guys were purchasing Alaska, right?
Just out of the Civil War.
I think so.
Yeah. And you guys were purchasing Alaska, and it's kind of the wild, wild west frontier. So that was a settlement that was pretty libertarian. People got by what they needed to do. But then you had cattle ranchers who started encroaching on other people's lands, and you needed sheriffs and the growth of government that way. So what was Canada doing other than, traveling on little rivers and catching beavers and selling beaver pellets to the British? What precipitated that change?
Being dominated by the French? I don't. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
Well, we have food
talking shit about French people, right? You know what? They are the greatest military force in all of history. Just so you guys know, they've won the most battles, the major battles.
Compared to here in Ontario, we called them quackers because he's like quack 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 quack.
This is what French Canadians. This is what we have to deal with. We hate you. This is why we want to separate from you people, because it's like,
bye.
That we're like, yeah, we need to separate this shit.
Just
Quebec should separate
when you leave, okay? Thanks, Quebec.
If Quebec separates, they would collapse.
Yeah,
their taxes would skyrocket to pay for all that fucking daycare and all that free shit they got.
Yeah, I want my daycare in Ontario, okay? You guys get to pay what we pay.
That's what they need. And that would help them. Just like the money that we give natives is destroying them, the money that we give provinces and is just gonna destroy them in the end. It's gonna fuck them over, like Quebec, like you were saying, right?
But the thing is, when you talk about the money we're giving provinces, at the end of the day, the money is flowing up from the people to cities, to provinces, to the federal government. So in a reduced government model, the federal government might get the least money out of all of it, just to do what they need to do, and then it goes down to the provinces, and then down to the
You don't want any redistribution
amongst local areas would get the more money versus being beggars to the federal government.
You want zero redistribution between provinces. You want them all to live and die by their own merits. That's the whole point of having provinces that are separate, have different laws. And that's the whole free market system, right? That's why America has a bunch of states and all that stuff. They're all supposed to be competing with each other.
Canadians are very dude, these policies will never get you elected. That's why the conservatives aren't really conservative, because they know if they preach real conservative ideas, they'll never get elected.
Exactly. Right,
never get elected, dude.
Because
you just have to wait till a system collapse, and that's it, dude. It's over.
Man, I know what you mean. Like, that's just kind of like the only thing that I see is going to happen, right? Because nobody wants to change anything within the system. At the end of the day, it's just,
well, if you guys call for all holds barred absolute war, I'm gonna go hang out at the Jamesy's house, because the guy knows how to shoot. Maybe he can teach me a few things. It's survival of the fittest, right? I'll hang out with.
Don't worry, Fred. I got spare.
Hey, well, that's always a good thing. We should all know how to do these things. Like I'm not even being joking about that. I think we should all learn how to use guns, survival things, and that. That's just useful things to learn. How to train, how to run, how to be physically fit to be able to do things.
Absolutely. Like Chris and I wanted to just go on the gun range, and I had told him that I myself was interested in getting my rifle's license, but then there's just so much hoops that you have to go through to literally look into who your great grandmother was.
Yeah, it's like they'll track you or something, but I think it is good. It's worthwhile for people to know how to use a gun have one, to know how to defend yourself physically if you have to be
Can't even defend
physically
yourself
fit enough to be able to jump over a fucking fence or something, that's 6-7 feet tall.
I was gonna say, I love AJ watching the shows where it's like, I'm a survivalist and I'm gonna teach you all about guns. And they show you this big wall of guns and all this ammo. It's a 5 foot, 600-pound motherfucker that couldn't get away from a rolling Oreo if he tried.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, what the fuck you gonna take cover behind? Because he's like, you can take cover behind a bush. I'm like, bitch, you need a boulder. A big one, a big goddamn boulder.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. No, those guys need to do some other type of exercises as well.
Well, those are the ones that AJ says are good, okay to call, right? Because they're the ones that we don't need. They're the ones that voted for all this government.
Yeah, all you got to do is run away from those guys. They'll have a heart attack. You can just walk back over and pick up the weapon as they, start convulsing on the ground. And there you go.
Well, they'll probably be in a better situation, honestly, with a collapse, because they'll have all that extra fat to sustain themselves, and then they'll just eat themselves for they'll survive for months. Where I would die in 2 weeks.
They'll turn out like Carmen when he got hung on the cross in South Park. They forgot about him. They put him on a cross.
Oh, right. Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks later, and he's all skin and bones hanging up on there. Like, holy shit, you're still alive.
Yeah. I remember that episode. That's old school South Park. Old school. But I think I'll probably be winding down. Do you guys got any last things you want to bring up? Last comments or last thing you want to address before I end it?
I'm a shithorse, so everybody go sub to my channel.
Yeah,
go sub already. I'm subbed. Good channel, man. Watch.
Hey, Fred, your accent is rare nowadays. That hardcore Canadian accent you got?
Oh, really?
It's fucking rare, dude. Where I'm from, rare.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
It's all
He's
Indian.
not a real Canadian.
He's only been here. I drink milk from bags. Fuck off.
Where are you from? Like up north?
No, I'm joking.
You damn quackers. Whack, 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 whack.
That's right. They took all the sharp edges away from the cartons in Canada. I'm afraid you're going to hurt your guys.
Well.
You're using milk.
Where are you from?
Racist.
Fred, up north?
No, I'm from Ontario, South. Fucking shitty Toronto.
Oh, you're from Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I feel sorry for you, bud.
I don't know how good you have it here in Toronto.
Have you guys seen? That video? Who cares about Manitoba? It's just a flat area.
Yeah, you know what? I saw this thing today.
That's where all the flat earthers come from.
Mosquito bite. Go to Manitoba.
Yeah, I saw this thing today on Weather Network, and it was like, "We love you, Manitoba. We're sorry," because they're like, you know what? Whenever we do the network, we always stand in the middle, and you know what's in the middle? Manitoba. And they're like, and it's like, whenever we do the side thing, and we had the guy, he's always standing there. Well, he's always sorry, guys. Like we don't, we love you, and like sorry for always ignoring you. I'm like, what the fuck? Like they must have gotten so many complaints from people in Manitoba. Like, why do you ignore us when you do the fucking national weather? You fucking assholes! Just pass right over us, like sons of bitches. I'm just like,
if you wanted to prove that flat Earth exists, just go to Manitoba.
Oh man, it's like, and for Saskatchewan to be mentioned above us is just like a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face.
Prairie fight.
Like, listen to the name Saskatchewan. Like, what? Like this.
I want to move up there.
Not have more popularity than Manitoba. Like Manitoba. Man, it's got man in the fucking title.
It's gonna change soon. It'll be People's Toba.
Well, if Trudeau gets his way, you're going to be living in Manitoba.
Yeah.
No, you'll be living in Manitoba.
Asalam Makalum, or whatever they say. I can't pronounce.
That's mainly that's the main reason why I wanted to separate It was way before I was just like, man, Manitoba should separate. These fucking assholes always ignore us. I don't care if
They
we
got
get
a conservative premier, right?
We do now, yeah, and he's made some changes.
Jason Kenney? That's Jason Kenney.
That's for Alberta.
Alberta, yeah.
Trudeau's gonna have a see if Trudeau gets elected again. A lot of the premiers are conservative, so maybe they could all band together, take him to court with Ford. Who knows? Maybe they could beat him.
I got a quick question for the Canadians on here, which is everyone except me.
We can talk about Gavin Newsom. That's okay.
As long as it's not anything against French people, then
no. It's an actual serious question. What are the chances you guys think of Trudeau actually getting elected again?
100%.
No shit.
Yeah,
he's not ahead in the polls. The Conservatives are ahead in the polls.
Who cares about the polls?
Actually, okay, I would say 90%, just because it seems like the Conservatives are making a surge. But what the Conservatives did here in Canada, just so you know, they shot themselves in the foot, what like good Conservatives do, and they split the party. So they split it in an election year. So they have created they broke off into like another Conservative party. Yeah. But the other one doesn't seem to be getting a lot of traction, but in a close election, it might be just enough. It might siphon off just enough votes to prevent Conservatives from winning who would have won otherwise.
Look in Burnaby South, they split the vote, and Jasmeet Singh won. If the PPC wasn't there, the Conservatives probably would have won.
Yeah.
They
or
wouldn't
maybe the Liberal candidate would have won, but yeah.
If you count the votes, it was Jasmeet
candidate would have won.
If you combine the PPC and Conservative vote, it was neck and neck with Jasmeet Singh, like a couple votes.
Yeah, no, so that's a preview of
40%. The PPC and the Conservative had a combined like 30% or like 31.
Yeah, I counted it the other day, dude. It was like fucking 100 vote difference, or maybe like a 500. It was close, dude.
Well, that's good, honestly.
And it was a low voter turnout too.
If that is true, that's good, because are you guys happy with the Conservative Party at the moment?
Not really.
No.
I was happy with Donald Trump until the guy went to CPAC and started saying we need more people. I was like, and where's my wall? I want the wall. I'm a Canadian and I want a wall.
So is it better to have a slow walk to getting replaced, or maybe he should crash the system, like let Trudeau in, let him crash it, get people all and then at least when we rebuild, we won't be a minority, as opposed to kicking the can, waiting, maybe the frog slowly boiling in the pot, and then we're all eventually our economies crumble anyways, because they'll get in for a few years, then the media will have its propaganda, then the Liberals will get in again and then go and ruin it anyways. But it's like the Conservative Party has gone way too far left.
Yeah,
way too far left, and we need to.
They're not even right wing; they're center. They're centrist.
So the split of the party is not necessarily a bad thing, and you should kind of look at it as a positive thing to some extent, because realistically, they only have a couple percentage anyways.
So I have a problem with the split.
Dude, look in the 90s. Remember when the Reform Party happened and then the PC party split?
You know who won? It was the Red Tories who won, and forevermore the party has been weakened since then. And if they would have stood their ground then, we would be better off now, as opposed to standing our ground now when we have to deal with demographic replacement in 10, 50 years, as opposed to doing it 20, 30 years ago, where we would have had a lot of time to recover. We would have still be 80, 90% of the population, right? But now that's not the case.
We're too polite here. That's the problem. Our politicians got to be more like Donald Trump, because although I think he has a very thin skin, he definitely knows how to turn the crowd on, because he's funny as shit. Like, some of those remarks in a lot of those campaigns are funny, right? I mean, like when somebody, if I don't know, Jamesy, maybe you remember when Ocasio-Cortez said something like he was a racist or something, and the helicopter's behind him, he's like, who? Whatever. I mean, the guy's got a style to him, which people probably would want to vote for, and we don't have that. Everybody's too fucking polite, you know. Somebody from the Prairie provinces said that wanted no immigration. Well, they're racist. I don't. You know, we're just limited to 250. Well, dude, that's what we've had it for a long time. Everybody's afraid to say it as it is. You got to be a little bit of a rebel, and you know, you'd be surprised. You'd probably get a lot more.
I agree.
You know,
I think you should go harder on it.
If you decided to stick in the race.
You know,
Canada is still majority white, dude. Like, it's just the major.
No, we're not.
cities.
No, we're not. No.
Yeah, it's just the major city. It's Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal.
Brampton, Montreal.
Yeah, part of Toronto.
But those are your major cities.
a couple of cities where white people are a minority. That's a big fucking deal. Like the major cities and stuff. Even
Those
like
are the voting areas. Yeah.
even Winnipeg here, and we're not really getting a good scale of how many people are really fucking coming in. I don't think we're really understanding, especially when the older generation dies off. Like we're really gonna fucking notice how much we're being replaced. But
dude, you know what's crazy? One day I got in my car and I just drove randomly. Like I just drove like in the middle of Southern Ontario. I drove for like 2.5 hours. And I ran into this town, like it looked like an old school Western town kind of, but modern. And I parked my car, I go into the convenience store, and I see a bunch of Indians, and I couldn't believe it. This is like almost 3 hours away, complete like wilderness, and I see a bunch of Indians, and I couldn't fucking believe it.
Free market,
like, oh my
going
God.
after the opportunities.
Yeah.
Silence.
A bunch of Indians. Couldn't believe it, dude. Middle of fucking nowhere. You can't escape them.
right, you know, and it's and
Hold on,
then what they're doing now with the government is they're trying to put
Not natives. Indian Indians.
South Asian.
Like,
okay.
what's Fred knows? Fred knows because like Indians
South
are
Asian.
flooding Toronto, flooding.
No, they
yeah,
own
You can't
Brampton.
escape.
Brampton
You
is
can't-
all.
Yeah, I'm on the
Yeah.
border of Brampton. I'm in Woodbridge.
Asians.
Yeah.
You mean Asians, right? Yeah.
South
yeah.
Asian. Yeah,
And,
well, they're Indians, right? To me.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And I know what you meant, right? And now
Yeah.
they're putting these people in different smaller communities to boost their economies or something like that, right? Or gonna put them in small little towns. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's that's just fucked up.
Dude,
Go
My
ahead.
problem with
If you go
Indians is-
further, sorry, go ahead.
My problem with Indians is they don't assimilate. They wear their garbs and their dresses, and they don't speak English. Like, dude, go try living in Brampton. Go try shopping in Brampton. Good fucking luck.
I avoid Brampton at all costs. I've avoided Brampton for decades.
Guys, you want to hear something funny? The shit's already hitting the fan with these different migrants. So the Chinese are in the same way; they stick to their own. So not too long ago, we had a looks like migrants, right? That had kidnapped a Chinese national, but he's not a national. He's a visa student, and these visa students, they buy up several properties, multi-million-dollar homes, and they're driving around in Lambos or Maseratis. And he was kidnapped the other day, and they have a footage and a photo.
All right.
And like this is not new because. Just in Christmas, we had they looked Somalian from what I saw. When I was at the mall, I was there filming it. And they were breaking the jewelry store during business hours, robbing it in these yellow vests. And they were then being James is going to laugh at this, but they were taken down by a black officer who had his firearm drawn and pointing at this kid, and the kid's still kicking him. I mean, if you asked, the guy would have been shot like 5 times. But we're too polite here. We're like, yeah, okay. Listen, I'm not going to pull the trigger. I know you're kicking me, but be a good boy. This is nuts. This is nuts. And we're already seeing this, right?
I was about to say, in any major American city, like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, something like that, if that had happened, all you would have heard was gunfire, and then the officer scream, "Freeze!"
There's no measure.
Because as soon as anybody rolled up on him, he would have been like, "I told him to stop."
Yeah.
After
Yeah.
that.
No, so you're starting to see these groups infight. When our mayor announced last summer that he's going to bring in 5,000 migrants and put them in a Catholic school and kick out all the students, and they had to find a place to stay, the Chinese had a massive protest. I didn't see a single white person, and they were protesting against these migrants. I'm thinking, well, where's all the white people? And then there was a couple of very liberal Chinese. They got into a fight. The fist fights are flying. They're hitting each other with the sticks because they're saying, "Oh, don't be bad to migrants." It was hilarious. The things that are going on in this country right now are just insane.
I think the Chinese will save us because out of all the ethnic groups, they vote conservative the most.
They are, but then in the end, once they get the numbers, they'll start to eat us too. Because trust me, the stuff that they talk behind people's back, I know. Like I hear it all the time, right? I'm okay because I married one, so I'm a little bit safe.
We need to get the native people on our side. Honestly, we need to get Native Americans. Those people, yeah, they're
left though. Like, is that
they don't like us. But
the numbers to help. Not anymore. Since they got those blankets like 200 years ago.
I was going to say in America there was a.
They don't have the numbers, but I just mean like they are a part of Canada. They lived here, and you know we should talk about being replaced and appeal and let them try to convince. Like obviously, you know. I work with a bunch of different like Aboriginal people and stuff like that, you know, like roofing I work with. And, you know,
that's why you work with them. That's why they need the harnesses.
I'm
most of them are too drunk.
Dude, I'm from Winnipeg, right? So this is the highest amount of Aboriginals in all of Canada live in Winnipeg and Manitoba. So, you know, a lot of them, they don't like really even know about the whole, like really believe too much about the treaty shit. You know, they're kind of like whatever, you know, some of them are still like, fucking white people or whatever. But I think that they also don't like immigrants as much as fucking the rest of us.
Well, in America, in the early 2000s, you had this thing where when the Mexicans were first coming across the border and people started first noticing and really getting, you know, antsy about it, the first major group in America that got really antsy about it was actually the blacks. Because the thing is the Democratic Party started kowtowing to them instead of the black populations in major city areas. And a lot of your black groups had a huge fucking problem with that.
Yeah, because the government's going to help them and give them rights and shit.
Bingo. Yep.
Yeah.
Because they're going to take their bennies away.
So hang on a second. So black people don't like immigrants. Chinese people don't like immigrants. Native people don't like immigrants. Muslims don't like gays. Who's making all these changes to make things happen? Is it white people? But white people don't like immigrants too. So who likes immigrants? Like what's going on? Or I shouldn't say immigrants. I should say the migrant people, dirty, whatever. I don't know. Right?
Well, in America, you got to get specific for us because it's not immigrants anybody really gives a shit about. It's illegal immigrants is what we give a shit about. That's the bug in our ass.
Okay, fair enough. So, and to be fair, it's something here to a certain degree. So, legal immigration certainly, and in Canada is supposed to have a merit-based immigration system, which I think Trump is something he's trying to do in the U.S., where you know, if there are certain needs in the economy, certain roles, whatever, those roles are given a priority. Certain levels of education, those levels are given a priority for immigration over others. That's what's supposed to be happening. What's been happening more recently with the liberal governments, and frankly the conservatives before them too, was they're kind of opening the floodgates to all kinds of migrants all over the place. I mean, the liberals have basically doubled the immigration number over the next year or so. So, and that includes we're and above the merit basis.
If you vote liberal, you're for immigration, whether you say you don't like immigrants or not, right? It's like you're just ignorant, or you don't know what the fuck you're voting for. But that's what you're voting
I can't even say that because at the end of the day, now we have, you know, we heard what Fred's example was of Trump at CPAC saying, well, no, we We need to bring in immigrants. No, the right ones, and no, we're going to build the wall. And we're going okay, well, which is it? Like America first means make sure your people are taken care of first in your borders, legally, citizens, and then sure, when you're saturated.
But clearly,
robots have jobs.
True.
And we could bring in the other ones too.
True, but clearly the Democrats, even though Trump isn't perfect right now, between the two choices, the Democrats are saying they want to give amnesty to people, and they want to have open borders, and they want like all this. And in Canada, Trudeau wants to increase immigration to 450,000 a year.
Yep.
As compared to somebody, even if he wanted to keep it at 250,000, which is too much in my opinion, that's still better than 450,000 a year.
I think something we talked about on Saturday was if we had the numbers, if we had the data to show us why Canada needs another 500,000 people a year.
It's for the pensions, dude. It's for the healthcare, the pensions. That's why, dude. It's all
but a lot of these people aren't going to pay into the system. They're getting from the system because they make too little.
Yeah, but what government doesn't do anything right. They just think throwing more people, that people will pay more into the system. They'll get jobs, but obviously it's not true because our healthcare system's in debt. Ontario's talking about privatizing because it's so much in debt. Obviously, immigration doesn't work because all these people are fucking freeloading, and who knows.
Yeah, and now they're also doing some things where apparently there's an article. There's something I want to talk about on our show on Saturday night, where now the federal government's like, okay, we're going to put some systems into place so we know when people leave the country. So, and I'm reading this thing, this article in the Star from I think it was last Wednesday, the Toronto Star, and I'm like, so you're not tracking who's in and out of the country to date in a computer somewhere? Because I know I go in and out. I have most of this. I mean, my job, I manage a lot of employees, and many of them are in the most of them are actually in the United States, in the Midwest. So I travel back and forth all the time. And I know I have to, show my passport, or I have Nexus so I can kind of get through it back and forth much faster. But I see people filling out paperwork and taking their pictures and all kinds of things. So you're just telling me now that you're starting to track who's in and out of the country so that they can know if asylum seekers or visa people are overstaying their visas, if asylum seekers are still in the country and they should have been out, if there's people who should have been deported are still in the country, to watch for terrorists coming in or out of the country who are known globally. You're telling me, Canada, you're just starting to track this maybe this year if your new IT system, which is going to cost about $200 million, just gets up and running in time? Holy shit. And I'm like, oh, great. Thanks, guys. Well,
just
now, the other thing that scares me from
border. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm happy they're doing this. I'm not upset about it. I'm just happy they're finally doing it. I thought this was happening to this point. But what they're also doing with that is they're linking the system to CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agency, IRS Canada, essentially, and to Employment and Social Services Canada. So what they want to also do is use the system to primarily, they expect to recoup the revenue recoup the cost over a number of years by essentially cutting off the benefits of people who are out of the country for a long time but come back to use our social services, our healthcare system, etc., by essentially cutting them off or penalizing them for abusing the system. So if they're actually able to get an IT system working that does all that, great. Haven't had the greatest track record. And have there any federal employees on this on the string? Phoenix yeah, it's been a debacle. Government systems like we mentioned eHealth in Ontario. If you swipe the Presto card in Ontario, that's $1 billion that went nowhere. So the government doesn't exactly have a large, and I actually manage IT projects for a living, so I kind of know how this goes. The government doesn't have the greatest track record delivering a large-scale IT services. So
they do nothing right, dude. They do nothing right. All they do is waste fucking money.
Yeah. They waste money because it's not theirs. So I have a question, if I don't mind. I don't know. It's up to AJ. Do we want to cut this call off short? I want to ask Jamesy something.
Okay, well, just make sure it's not too long because I want to end this in like the next 5 minutes or so. If you can wrap it up in that time.
3.5 hours isn't enough for isn't too short? You want to go to
For me, I can keep going. I'm like I'm on jet fuel. So Jamesy, when you talked about immigration, you said that the American issue is with illegal immigration, but do you not have a problem with immigration overall?
I don't personally. There's some people that do, and they make some really good points about it. You'd have to ask them. My main focus, the main thing I didn't like is illegal immigration, and I'll tell you why. Is that back in, this probably was even before him, but Reagan granted amnesty, okay, to a whole bunch of people on the southern border to let them all in, right?
Yep.
Clinton did the same thing. Bush did the same thing. Obama did the same thing. Trump, one of the reasons he's getting so much shit from the right wing and left wing in Congress, especially from the House of Congress, so that's Congress and Senate for us, right? The reason he's getting so much shit from them and the media is because he refuses, flat out fucking refuses to grant amnesty. And the reason they granted amnesty all those times was they were kicking a problem, like they were kicking a can down the road of a problem, because they didn't know how to process these people. They didn't know what to do with people on the southern border. So you've got this thing now stretching back, 20 years? That's a habit. You know, it's basically become a societal habit from South America to go, well, if you just, all size up, that's the reason you see the caravans. You see tens of thousands of people move up, migrate up to the American border, because the thing is we've taught them every time they do this, we'll let them all in. We'll just grant them amnesty because it's too big of a mess. It's too big of a political football, and nobody wants to take the fallout. And Trump is the only one now going, fuck you, screw you, we got rules, deal with it. And that's why he's getting so much blowback. He's not giving the kids their candy when they scream at him for it. That's literally what's happening. That's how I see it.
I like it.
The right-wing argument for those people is cheap labor.
Yeah.
And in return, you'll get cheaper shit, right?
Yeah, and that's the argument you'll hear from some people in the Senate and the Congress that are right wing that want amnesty granted. That's the exact argument you will hear.
Yeah,
almost verbatim.
Yeah. Well, they're just crony capitalists essentially. But either way, I think we're gonna end it off here. You guys want to go through, I guess, and say your goodbyes to the chat. I don't know.
I love everybody.
I don't know how to end these things.
Except Fredrick. He's a dick wiggle.
Yeah. Plug your channels. That's what you should do.
Yeah. Link my channel down in the chat. I cover cable news, and I basically point out where they're lying to us. I make fun of them. I cover political stuff. It's all commentary. If you're looking for the real minutia arguments of the truth of every little singular grain of sand of the difference between conservative bipolar dynamics and how it injects with the left-wing dynamics of socialism, I don't do that shit. I just cover vague, broad stuff, and I just have fun with it. So yeah, that's my channel.
All right, go there and subscribe, guys. I got it actually right here. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Bam.
And much love.
There it is again. And then Fredrick.
Well, we do this thing Wednesday and Saturday, so everybody knows me and Chris, right? So,
well, if not, go to his channel. It's linked in my description below. And also, Chris, you don't have a channel yet, or you said you do have one, but it's not really.
I do have one, and it's really important that everybody subscribe so that when I eventually post a YouTube video, you'll get that. Okay. What's click the bell, and she can be there for the debut.
What's the name of your channel?
Chris Gunderson. It's
Chris Gunderson.
But yeah, that's it for now. I'm gonna change it later, but I'll pop a link here, and feel free to subscribe, and you'll get the notification, and boom, it's just gonna blow your mind. It's gonna be crazy.
Chris is better than the dirty chicken.
She's all the hate tonight, man.
Yeah.
I'm buying a gun.
Oh, damn it.
Fred, what we should do is we should go on a road trip down to Buffalo. There's a ton of gun ranges down there. We can shoot some rounds. Nice and easy.
I don't want to get shot by a bunch of gangsters there.
Buddy, you got nothing to worry about with me, okay? I'll take care of you down there. Don't
James, you're from Buffalo.
Nah,
worry. We're close enough.
Who's American in here?
me.
Where are you from?
Midwest.
Oh.
Every time I go to the U.S. for work, I keep thinking, man, I keep forgetting to fire a gun. So one of these days, I'm going to go down there for a business trip and sneak in some tips sneak in some time for the gun range. I usually go to the Midwest too, so I see lots of options down there.
Yeah, we'll get a hold of some boys that live in what do they call them? Damn it. Anyway, I got some friends that got 50 cals. We'll let you shoot them off.
Ooh.
All right, guys, I'm out.
All right, guys. Everybody, thanks for joining me, and hope you all have a great night. Take
Are we
it
going
easy,
to
guys.
plug the Saturday show? Come on the Saturday.
Yeah, come to we're going to be doing a show on Saturday. Let's do it at, I don't know, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. I think that's what it is. But yeah, I'll set an event for it so you guys will see it. But yeah, come watch it on Saturday, and I may even be appearing on JF's show pretty soon.
Nice.
So in maybe April 5th, I'm just talking with Pravada in the chat right here, and he said I might be able to get some guests potentially in the future as well, like some people on the alt-right and stuff. But yeah, so some developments in the future. But yeah, come watch the show on Saturday, and all you guys have a great night. All right, take it easy.
Take care.